Fafita to Wiley. Wiley down the sideline. Wiley breaks the tackle. Wiley has gotten into the end zone.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Here's a long run. Oklahoma State gonna do it again, and guess who? Big O to the house.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And wow, Haynes King kept it. Faked it to Dante Smith, and here goes King. Inside the Carolina 30.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Nix in the gun, fakes the handoff, pressure coming, throws end zone, wide open, Franklin makes the catch. Troy Franklin, 3-yard reception. Utah brought the heat, but couldn't stop the Ducks, who've scored again, and now lead 20-3.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Dylan Gabriel. He got there. His throw to the end zone. Incomplete. A generational win for Kansas. Finally toppling Oklahoma.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Got hung up in the wind a little bit. Here's Worthy, makes the first man miss. Straight ahead past the 40. Kicker to beat. There he goes. Worthy making a house call on a punt return. Xavier Worthy with a 75-yard return for a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We are loaded up today on this Monday. We know more about college football from all the conferences, all the teams, and many, many of the players. A lot to get to. We will hear today at 3:30 from Rhett Lashley, the head football coach at SMU, as they put up a ton of numbers over the weekend. He'll join us at 3:30 today and get to that with him. Also, today we'll hear from former K-State star Aaron Lockett, Dave Hunziker, voice of Oklahoma State, J.J. Joe, Phil Bennett, and UTSA's Jeff Traylor today. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and here we go. Brian Ferentz, it appears as if that clock has run out.
Well, it has run out. Beth Getz, the interim AD, who I think will be the full-time AD after this is all said and done, made the decision. He's going to stay. There were some reports that the wide receivers coach was going to take over, but he's going to stay until after the bowl game, and then he will be gone.
Well, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a logical decision. I mean, we played this game for long enough at this point. We kind of know the deal. They lost the last time we saw them to Iowa in a 12-10 game. Prior to that, we saw them win 15-6. They've scored 20, 26, 0, 41 against Western Michigan. But beyond that, they hadn't scored more than 26 points at all this season, other than that Western Michigan game. So it's been bad, especially here lately as they've gotten deeper into Big Ten play. It's been a running joke to the point of it's not even a joke anymore. It's like not even – you can kind of squeeze some funny out of it. It's just kind of – it ticks you off when you think about it. I think if you're an Iowa fan, and nevertheless they still keep winning. Yep. So it's hard at 6-2 to really get too upset about it, but you wonder what you could be if you had an offense that was capable of doing more. And so – yeah, I don't think this comes as a surprise. I think everybody's just probably at this point a little bit fed up with the running joke that has been the Iowa offense.
All right, so here's a note about, in fact, Iowa's offense. Garrett Ross, by the way, running the mothership. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Levi Caraway. Iowa's game against Northwestern this week at Wrigley Field has an over-under of 29.5. It's the lowest over-under in college football history.
Yep. That's how you get your offensive coordinator finally fired, is when in the history of gambling, they've decided there is no more math that we can add to this. We can't, we're making the number as small as we feel comfortable doing it. And there's probably some guys that are like, we could make that smaller. Like, 29.5 is the.
You think the new AD went online to make I'm not joking. I can't do that with Iowa.
No,
Iowa State. It's just bad. They have to. Here's the other thing that this is going to be big for Beth Getz if she is winds up being the full-time AD. You have to sit down with Kirk Ferentz and say, what is your vision for the future of this team as the conference is changing? What do you like? What offense are you comfortable running? Because it doesn't seem to me, at least outwardly, that he's been that bothered by this situation because they still win more games than they lose.
Yeah, I mean, I think the style fits them, right? I mean, the style fits well enough to win a bunch of games, but, I mean, it does prevent you from being more than what you have been. And so, 29.5 is awfully low. I think the other week, you put up an over-under that seemed pretty low, and I was like, oh, man, there's no way. And they, clearly vaulted right over that over-under like it was no problem whatsoever, or under that, I should say. But, yeah, I mean, they had 22 total against Minnesota, so that would have cleared. 21 points total in the Wisconsin game in a 15-6. They would have cleared there. So, yeah, I mean, Northwestern's been better than expected because of the fact of how their offseason went. I don't know how many people would have had them at 4-4. So they've been, good despite some major adversity suffered right as the season was getting underway. But it's a compliment, and it's a diss at the same time. It's like, hey, your defense is so good that we know you're not going to give up a lot of points, but your offense is so bad we know you're not going to score a lot of points, and therefore it makes it a fun game to see, how low they can go. And now they've found the new low, and you know what? They'll possibly find a way to get even lower than that, depending on how this weekend goes.
By the way, congratulations to Joe Mayer. He is the latest winner of the TexasBeefHouse.com college football pick'em contest. He and Texas Beef House have already communicated. Joe Mayer is a graduate of Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, lives in Mason, Ohio, was in broadcasting at one point in his life. He and I have communicated too. Congratulations, Joe. The $100 gift certificate, Samantha Duvall and Joe have already been in contact. Now, Kansas, KU, with a back-and-forth crazy with Oklahoma. I got a couple of things about that game other than the fact Kansas with a great win. College football, there is a part of the tip of an upright. And Max Olson later on that afternoon, college football, you got to love it. There's that one there. Then Lance Leipold, here's a comment from him on celebrating with the students. I hope no one gives me a breathalyzer off of just the fumes out there. I love that sense of humor. Of course, you could have that. Watch that game. Really stunned at what Oklahoma did near the end when they had the ball near midfield after a pick. But a huge win for KU, and that program continues to rise.
Yeah, I hope that maybe they can or maybe they can't. I hope they just leave it in that pond for all time. And then you can, if you're one of those students that threw it in the pond, 25 years from now, you take your son there and be like, we did that.
Yeah.
That was us.
All this algae on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Matt Brown's got some story about what they do with field goal posts after they dump them into a pond somewhere. But, good for KU. Great win for them. I thought Oklahoma would, have a better showing, and I thought that they would go and win this game based on their recent struggles, and I was wrong. Their recent struggles are what they are for a reason, and they caught up to them. And I think, Jeff Levy's a popular name to throw under the bus here over the last couple of days. Seen a lot of Jeff Levy negativity because of their decision play calling at various points in that game. You're a team that hasn't run the ball, super well. I mean, as far as explosive plays go, but you're running the ball pretty effectively on Saturday, and then you go away from that, which I know for a lot of people was just a bit inexplicable. But, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, they're falling from the ranks of the unbeaten now. Those national championship hopes are a little less. Those playoff hopes are a little less, and now they're walking that tightrope along with a bunch of, other teams, including Texas, as far as not having any room for error and, not only that, but also having to root for other losses for other teams to give yourself a clearer path to the playoff. But yeah, that's now on shaky ground, and so is a Big 12 championship. I mean, with the gridlock at the top, you can ill afford as we enter what is going to be the month of the Big 12, in my opinion. You know, everybody's been talking about the Pac for the last few weeks. I think it's all about the Big 12 this month, starting this weekend. At least this weekend it is, because the matchups are just set up so perfectly for the tie at the top, in that upper tier. But yeah, that was not shocking. It was disappointing from my purview, but I gave a lot of credit to Kansas. They had the time to prepare. They had the home field and the big noon kickoff and all of that, and it was drumming up to be a big opportunity for them, and they took full advantage of it and did their thing on the ground and made some plays. And, credit to Lance Leipold and company. They did a great job.
All right, so here's by the way, we will have an analyst broadcaster on Oklahoma State, also a former K-State star, as a part of our show today. Let's go ahead and go straight to the list of unbeatens first, Garrett, because Craig brought that up. Oklahoma no longer a part of it. The Air Force Academy, Seminoles, Georgia, Liberty, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington. We know that at least Ohio State, Michigan are going to play. And there's a note we'll get into about Washington needing to kind of get refocused, because they've kind of gotten by, and they have 3 games in a row that are pretty salty there. So those are the list. 2 of those teams are most likely not going to be allowed to be a part of the college football playoff, no matter what they do the rest of the year, just because we understand realism. So there we are with that. James Madison is 8-0 but ineligible. Now, they can actually get into a bowl game. I saw the note from Brett McMurphy. If there's not enough teams that become bowl eligible, then they could get in a bowl game, which would be great if that, in fact, usually there are too many teams and not enough bowls to put them in.
Well, I mean, that there are some teams that are, like, with their schedule, are skirting on the edges of maybe not making it when they always would, like Clemson right now. Could find themselves on the outside looking in. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. But as far as the undefeateds go, well, now the doomsday scenario of 5 undefeated Power 5 teams is over.
Won't happen.
It won't happen. It wasn't going to happen.
Never has happened.
It never has happened. And here's the deal. If it happens any year after this year, who cares? There's a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
Good for it. If that happens, it happens. It probably especially won't happen then, because scheduling is going to be a whole lot different than it's ever been in the coming years. So, it's going to be interesting to see where this heads. I know the committee has their first poll coming out, which no one should care about, but you're going to tomorrow, but we'll see.
I mean, the poll tomorrow really doesn't matter all that much. I know there will be somebody that argues, like, yes, it does because of positions. It's like, no, because a lot of it's going to sort itself out, like Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, it doesn't really matter where they are to start with because of where they'll be by the time they play each other, right? I mean, some of the other jockeying for position, I'm sure there'll be an argument for why that's super important, somewhere in the corner of the internet. But yeah, I don't get serious about this based on what we've seen in previous years until, at least a couple more weeks from now. I think it's all for show, at least early on. But I mean, the Ohio State-Michigan thing, somebody's going to fall from those ranks. Liberty doesn't play anybody. James Madison is a great story. Glad to see them getting some love nationally. I'm going to be glad in Michigan's case that they're actually going to play someone because they have had a pretty good run here of favorable scheduling. Not all in their control, obviously, but they get to play Penn State and Ohio State this month. So we'll see them matched up with somebody a little bit more on their level. And you know what? If they get through all that unscathed, then you give it up for them. And I know there will be the never-ending cries of cheating and all that will follow them, but we'll cross that road when we get to there as far as, if they get through this last month undefeated. But, yeah, that's a dwindling list, and cool to see Air Force on there getting love. Little did we know last year watching them in that frigid bowl game that was right up their alley that they would be a team that would turn around and have the year that they're having right now. So, if Baylor was playing any better, it would take some of the sting off that loss maybe. You get, Air Force was pretty good, but, I mean, they've been so bad since then that there's no trying to sunshine that up at all. But, yeah, a great story for Air Force, James Madison, and a lot of that, we'll see how the rest of it shakes out.
All right, there's still a lot to get to, and we will. And thank you for those of you watching, viewing, listening, whether it's on Sikkim 365 app and or on 365 Sports. Big noon kickoff will be in Austin. What a great game of two schools that are trying to get themselves in position to play for the Big 12 title, and yet could be another game that's played that ends up in another game played. There's a mass chaos at the top, and I love it. I want chaos, and I love the fact that there's nobody that's gone undefeated, with all due respect to who likes Oklahoma, Craig, but big noon kickoff Saturday in Austin, a collision course between K-State and also the University of Texas Sarkeesians.
Texas managed Malik Murphy really well the other day against BYU. They won by a lot, and we'll see. I mean, he's going to have a much tougher test this week against a defense that's really a defense, and then BYU is just struggling so much on that side of the ball. But, Texas had things going well from the jump. You heard the highlight in the open was Xavier Worthy, and from that point on, it was like, well, this one's kind of feels how it's going to go.
When he crosses the goal line on a catch or a punt or a return, whatever, he does that almost like a track star hitting the tape.
I mean, he
runs as fast as
he just
one.
glides when
does.
he gets going. It's unbelievable. So, they look like they're humming along pretty well. But, Kansas State's figured out who they are in a huge way. So that should be a really, really interesting game in Austin.
I mean, that's shaping up to be a massive game. I mean, it's probably determine who has still of a realistic chance to get in the Big 12 title game, because there will be only 3 weeks remaining. You'll have a game advantage plus head-to-head. So you almost lock yourself in above the other with a win here. But as I said at the start, this is a massive weekend for the Big 12. I mean, a massive weekend.
Yeah.
We're almost, every game has some meaning to it. And even the bottom-dwelling games, it's like, hey, you're fighting to not be at the bottom. You're still fighting for pride in some cases. But there's, 3 games that are all going to have something to say about the top of the standings here. This will be a huge one. Being in Austin opens it up a bit. Like, if this was in Manhattan, I'm saying K-State, like, bar none in my mind. But it being in Austin, that does make it different for me, because I just think K-State at home, with the way they're just running through people, would be right up their alley. But having to travel, Texas bouncing back from the injury news and not letting it affect them, and being able to, get a nice initial start from Malik Murphy, nothing like super crazy, but got his feet wet, and you have some confidence in him and what he can do with all those weapons around him and your defense and all of that. So, something's got to give in this game, and it's going to be awesome, and I cannot wait to see how this one goes.
All right, speaking of the Big 12, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, they remain red hot too, and how about this? Ollie Gordon. This is getting to be unbelievable. There are some really good running backs in the Big 12, and obviously Texas has one of them in Jonathan Brooks. But Ollie Gordon has now had back-to-back 250-yard scrimmage yards or more, and had 284 against Kansas, 282 West Virginia, 292 against Cincinnati. The first time in the FBS since 10 years ago, Andre Williams at Boston College had 3 consecutive 250 or more yards in back-to-back 3-game stretch.
Yeah, he is tearing it up right now, and he's completely he's not solely responsible for it, but if Oklahoma State didn't find, that gear in Ollie Gordon, or he didn't hit that gear, I don't know where they'd be right now. I mean, he has completely changed their outlook for this season.
You know what, Coach, excuse me, Craig, you know what, Cincinnati said it's like trying to tackle a giraffe. Long and angular with much better speed than you think, and he can carry the ball 30-plus times a game and not blink. Craig?
Yeah, he's had a tremendous run, and if you haven't been watching him, you need to check him out. I mean, they've made their offensive changes and whatnot, and they settled on Alan Bowman, but, I mean, he's been the reason why they've become who they are and why they're on the great run that they are on now with 4 straight wins. You go back to Iowa State, and he started there with 121, and he didn't know at the time that was going to be the build-up, but that was sit there in, week 4, and then he had 136 in a score, and then he had 168 in a score. But the thing about that KU game was, you mentioned the 200 all-purpose yards, but he had 168 in a score on the ground and a 7-point win over KU, but he also had over 100 in a score receiving in that game.
Yeah, that was on the graphic.
So he had that, and then started these last 3 weeks, then that 282 and then the 271, and it's been amazing. It's been a crazy run for Ollie Gordon, and if you don't know who he is, and like I say, you need to check him out, because he's looking at Big 12 Player of the Year honors with the way things are going. You're looking at Doak Walker consideration. I don't know. They run it out. I don't know about like Heisman and all of that, but he's going to be up for every major award he can possibly be up for at this stage. So, yeah, I mean, and they've still got, a month to go, so we'll see what he can do the rest of this way. But, I mean, if he's posting 200 yards with regularity over the stretch, then that means good things are probably happening for the Cowboys. And the way things are going right now, they're right there in the thick of the Big 12 title race in that top cluster, and he's the reason why. So, yeah, he's been a fascinating guy to watch blossom over this last month.
All right, so the Ollie Gordon was named the third consecutive week the Offensive Player of the Week in the Big 12.
3 straight weeks.
Leon Johnson, co-newcomer with West Virginia's Beanie Bishop Jr., defensive co-newcomers of the week. Xavier Worthy, special teams on that absolutely lightning-quick kick return that set things going up there as well. So there you go, Ollie Gordon the second with a phenomenal run, over 1,000 yards, and just unbelievable the way you insert him in the lineup and then everything else seems to fall into place. He had 19 carries in the first 3 games of the year, and now has put up these crazy numbers, and Oklahoma State is on a roll too. Now, the AP Top 25 poll is out. Georgia remains 1. There's Michigan, Ohio State, the same. As you pretty much can tell, there's a little bit of movement in the second 5 because of Oklahoma's loss. They dropped to 10. Texas up. Alabama sneaking up. Oregon with another impressive win against Utah. And then you see 15, 16 through 20. Oregon State beaten. They drop a little bit. UCLA with a win against Colorado. And then there you have Kansas State and KU at number 22 and 25.
Yeah, Shadir Sanders suffered the brunt of UCLA's win there. That was criminal by what his offensive line was doing to him, or
what the defensive line was doing to him that the offensive line
could not stop. Utah, ran up against Bo Nix in that buzzsaw. And then not only that, but their defense, Oregon's defense is run by Dan Lanning, who's one of the best defensive minds in the country. So it shouldn't surprise you that they're good. And when you're not playing with your starting quarterback, that allows a team like Oregon to clamp down on you. And North Carolina, out of the poll, lost 2 games in a row to unranked opponents. And Mac Brown, they might be out of the ACC title picture completely in a week.
Yeah, and great Kings. Haynes King with the performance now has beaten 2 top 25 teams this year for 4-4 Georgia Tech. Craig?
Yeah, I'm not so sure Oregon's not better than Washington, but we can see that down the road perhaps. But, yeah, I mean, Washington remains unbeaten, but they've obviously got some issues, and Oregon looks really, really good. That was an impressive win over Utah, just destroyed them when all was said and done, and that doesn't happen to Utah very often. So that was, kind of a long time coming in a way because – this was such a step up in competition, and they had been getting by with the quarterback situation and all that to their credit. But it just goes to show you that Oregon's a different type of level to what they've been playing all year long. So really impressive by the Ducks. They're right there in the CFP conversation. Oklahoma drops obviously, as you mentioned, and it makes sense, but still sitting at 10's not too bad. Oregon State tumbles 5 spots. What a win for Arizona. And it wasn't a fluke. I don't know how many people stayed up late to watch that, but Fafita and company and Michael Wiley had 2 huge touchdowns in the fourth quarter as he came back after a few games away with an injury. But 2 massive scores from him to tie the game and then give him the lead. Or I think it was to tie and then give him the lead. But that was a really good win there for Jed Fish and company. Bummer for Oregon State, though, because with 2 losses, that kind of throws things a little bit more sideways for them and their overall hopes. But Tulane, one of the James Madison, they're at the bottom. Good to see those schools, but Air Force all the way up to 17. Good, so just some of the regulars in this poll, but have been regular throughout most of this year. And then, K-State, good to see them back in the top 25, but how long is it going to last? Are they going to jump up a few spots by beating Texas? Or are they going to be right back out of there next week? Kansas, they're at 22, but are they going to hang around there? And that's the Big 12 representation right now is 22 and 25, not counting Oklahoma and Texas. So, if you're conference affiliated, you want them to win this weekend to bump them up further and give the holdovers more leverage as far as their argument about, the future of the league and kind of the direction of it. It's good to see them getting that back into the poll, but need to get higher than that and find a sticking place there.
By the way, some of you in the note, Chris Kleiman has been able to get K-State in a great position, including winning the Big 12 last year and the win against TCU, but 0-4 in his time at Kansas State against Texas. And so Yeah, there was a time when K-State, that was Texas's Achilles, like Texas was Nebraska's Achilles in that stretch for a long, long time. Speaking of Washington, we know they beat Oregon earlier this year. It was a great game. Here's who they have coming up the next 3 weeks. 24th ranked USC on the road. They had a 50-49 crazy this past weekend. Utah at home, and then Oregon State on the road in Corvallis. And so they have been winning, but they've slipped a little bit because it's a beauty contest sometimes. They have 3 back-to-back ranked teams coming up on their schedule.
Well, and then they have the Apple Cup, which will be bitter. I mean, it will be so. Yeah, I mean,
Washington State's really struggling right now.
They're struggling, but I'm not like that's rivalry week, and things get weird. So we got a break for Rhett Lashley.
Yeah.
So, that's a brutal schedule. Although USC is not rough.
USC Washington final score, sir, blah blah blah, 76-75, 77-76. So much more to get to. We'll come back and look at more deep into the Big 12 standings and schedule, and also the bangers coming up. SMU football coach Rhett Lashley. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, also your tailgate location in Waco. And this week, they have all of those specials for hams and turkeys, raw turkeys, smoked turkeys for the upcoming holidays with Thanksgiving around the corner, and then the holidays and maybe parties and also Christmas and New Year. But this week, chuck roast, stew meat, boneless pork chops, whole chickens and chicken thighs are all on sale. Ring bologna, $3.99 a pound. Under the 10 scallops, these are big, juicy, thick scallops at $21.75 a pound. Lobster tails, they have a lobster tank, a tank filled with live lobster tails, big ones too, at $19.50 a piece, and 10% off all cotton candy and 10% off on all popcorn. Waco Custom Marketplace, Brian Bauer and the Bauer family do a great job. They have a wholesale department too that distributes their product to a lot of restaurants, and not just in Central Texas, but throughout the state of Texas. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
During Jeep Adventure Days, save big on 2023 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee Limited with values up to $5,500. Or 10% off MSRP on new Jeep Gladiators on all trim levels. Or 10% off MSRP on a new Jeep Compass at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
He is the head coach at SMU. The Mustangs are 6-2, coming off a dominant win against Tulsa. Rhett Lashley joins us. He's been with us before on 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. Rhett, thank you for your time, Coach. We appreciate it. Are you guys playing right now? Coaches are never happy, but again, you have to be. You look like you're playing on all cylinders right now.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. Yeah, I mean, we've played really well the last 2 weeks. Last week was just kind of one of those weeks that everything was clicking from offense, defense to teams, and things went our way, especially early, and it just kind of snowballed in our favor. But I do think, over the last 3 weeks, we've been playing a really good defense. I think it's the first time since 1984 we've held 3 straight conference opponents under 10 points, and 10 points or less. And then I think offensively, specifically in the last couple of weeks, we've kind of found our identity. I think you've seen Preston start to get better and better each week. The more starts he has, I think we've got guys that are stepping up, making plays, and then we've kind of gotten better on special teams too. So we're at least, trending upward at the right time.
Coach, defense is, not only about your athletes out there, but it's also about developing the attitude and the confidence. And seemingly sometimes to me, it seems like defenses are harder to learn for guys than offenses especially when they move up a level. What has it been about this defense that's been able to gel so well, not just the last few weeks, but really for most of the year?
Man, you're right. Look, it's hard to play defense in college football now. People are going to move the ball on you. And to some degree, people are going to score points. But, we're running the same. We got the same defensive coordinator, same scheme as we were running last year. We did add some pieces, which definitely helps. Good players will really help. But I think the best thing is they just bought in to the team defense aspect. We play a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, but specifically we're playing a lot of guys on defense. And they're just swarming to the football. We're not giving up explosive plays. We've bought into stopping the run, and we're swarming to the football. And that's really the 3 things we said we wanted to do. But the most important thing is that we run and swarm to the football. And they've bought into that. And because of that, when they throw it out in space and the first guy missed the tackle, there's 3 more guys there. And so what could have been a big play was a 5-yard gain, or when people have gotten us this year, we've got them on the ground. And so they get a 15, 20, 30-yard play. We get them on the ground. Now we get to play defense again. And oftentimes we've held them to a field goal or whatnot. And so they've just bought into the scheme. They've bought into the team style of defense. What I'm telling you is, statistically, we're leading our league and in a lot of categories, and we're, I think, 5th in the country in defense. And yet we don't have one guy in the top 20, 25 in our conference in tackles. We don't have a guy in the top 5 in sacks, or at least we didn't come into the last game. Maybe we do now. I haven't checked. But my point, we don't have anybody with more than 1 or 2 interceptions. They're just doing it as a group and as a unit, and that's been cool to see.
You mentioned your quarterback, Preston Stone, the sophomore, had about one of the most efficient games you can possibly have this past weekend. 15 of 20, 371, and 3 TDs. It's a great line. You mentioned his growth. What kind of a personality is Preston, and just what kind of has been the story of him growing with that experience and just all the things that come with that to become the player that he's becoming in front of you right now?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. It's been a process that we knew it would be, We said this, we had Tanner Mordecai for the last 2 years who came from OU. He had already kind of gone to college and learned and failed, and same thing with Shane Michelle when he came from Texas. And this was the first time in 4 or 5 years, really, we've had a high school quarterback that we were, developing through. And, he's ready, but he's still got to go do it and go play. And now he's 8 starts in this season. And I think you're starting to see him get better and better each week. I mean, 15 completions for 370 yards is hard to do, and so, but what he's really done is, he's just gotten the first 3 or 4 games. I thought he played really well. His personality, he's outgoing, he's competitive, he's fiery. He loves to play the game. He loves to compete. So, he's got that contagious kind of personality. His second career start this year, he goes on the road to Norman and plays really well. And we're in position to potentially win in the fourth quarter. And, within 2 weeks later, he probably played his worst game against, TCU. And the way he's bounced back over these last 3 or 4 weeks has been really good to see because, I think he realized that every play doesn't have to be a big play, a great play, because he has the ability to extend plays, make great plays, make wow plays. But I think what he's really starting to learn is I just need to make the routine plays routine. I need to be able to get the ball in my hands quick, throw the slant, throw the screen or the spot or the bubble, or make the right read and hand it off instead of pull it to throw an RPO. Like, just make the routine plays routine. And then when it's not there or things break down, my ability takes over, and then I can run around and extend the play and make those plays that a lot of guys can't make. And so I think he's kind of just grown in that over the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. And I think that's why his play and our offense's play has really improved.
Rhett, is there any, coincidence to the fact you're playing as well as you are? You had the tight losses in the Big 12's Oklahoma and TCU earlier, but you have the momentum of the announcement of the ACC. You're playing well. And what does this do with what you're doing now, that announcement and recruiting at this time?
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here is massive for recruiting. I mean, there's so much momentum from obviously the announcement that we're going to the ACC. Tonight they're going to announce our schedule for the next 7 years, but I know at least for this year, we'll know who we're playing next year, home and away and all that. And everybody's excited about that. We're building a new facility that we'll be moving into next year. I mean, there's a lot of things going. I think we just qualified for a bowl game for the 5th straight season. So there's a lot of things that are going really well, and it's definitely having an impact in recruiting. I mean, you look, the 2025 class, we have a top 10 recruiting class right now. So there's a long way to go for us and everyone else in that. But my point is, the type of high school players in the state that have always wanted to come to SMU now feel like they can do it and play on the biggest stage. And so that's opened up a lot of doors. The challenge for us is, this got announced on Friday before the first game of the season. And so we felt like then we had a team that could compete in our league. And now, 8 games in, we've confirmed that we have a chance to compete. And so we got to do what we got to do down the stretch to give us that opportunity. But it's hard to stay present because our team and our staff, we're not worried about the ACC. We're in the American. We have 4 more regular season games left. And right now we're tied for first. And so we want to do everything we can to maximize this year. But as far as the future goes, there's a ton of excitement, and it definitely keeps boosting recruiting.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't complicate things if your whole goal is just get the best guys. You don't have to worry about what league you're going to. They can ask you questions like, look, we'll get into all the X's and O's later. Let me sell you on SMU first, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, the most pressure I think I've ever felt was we played Louisiana Tech game 1. And game 1s are always tough. You want to get off to a good start. But after the announcement we just had on Friday, I didn't want to be the guy who lost to La Tech at home, after the best day in 40 years in SMU football. So, fortunately, our guys took care of that one for us.
Yeah, I know you can't focus on it right now, but that is going to be very strange tonight, I'm sure, to see like Clemson or Florida State or Miami on the schedule. That's going to be very, very cool, and can't wait to see what that ends up looking like. You mentioned the bowl game, though, and going back-to-back, I mean, you've got bigger, grander goals, obviously, but can you just explain how important that is just in general? Is that something that you guys acknowledge and celebrate in any kind of way, or is it just kind of like, hey, that's cool and we move on? But not only that, but how big is that for a young program like yours to have all of that time and the development part of having a bowl team? Yeah,
well, look, we definitely celebrate it. And I think the coaches are like, oh, we got bigger. They're lying to you. That's step one. It's a process. And if you win a championship or get a chance to compete for one, at some point in time, you got to become bowl eligible. And, we celebrate wins around here, and we celebrate those things. We celebrated it in the locker room. We didn't celebrate it like we've made it, right? We do want to continue to play well and maybe do more this year. But, it's a big deal. We got Jonathan McGill, who transferred from Stanford, graduated with a captain there. And this is going to be the first year he's gone to a bowl game. It's a big deal. And so, yes, we want to win our league. But only 1 out of 14 teams is going to do that. And that doesn't mean all of the 13 teams had a horrible season. And so our goals are intact. Our goals are realistic, and they're attainable still, which is great with 4 games to go. But, we're going to celebrate. It's hard to win in college football. And so when we do, we definitely celebrate it. And then, today being Monday, we've moved on. We got a really good Rice team we've got to play.
You played quarterback in high school. You obviously played at Arkansas, quarterback there. You've been an offensive, assistant GA, all that throughout, offensive coordinator. Do you and offensive coordinators around the country feel guilty for making defensive coordinators not sleep at night?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. We feel like it's our God-ordained right to just make their lives as stressful as possible. If you see a D coordinator with hair, we haven't done our job. They need. We sometimes look around. We say it's professional courtesy. We owe it to make them stop this. And so look, they get to move around pre-snap. They get to stem from even to odd. They get to blitz from all over the place. So we have to do something, right, to make it hard on them. And so it is. Our defensive coordinator, Scott Simons, who's obviously doing a fantastic job. It is, it's not always fun to see your guy struggle with how hard it is to stop people, but sometimes you see that and you go, okay, good. I'm glad I'm on this side of things.
Can you give us a sneak peek yet on who you're going to play next year in the ACC? Do you know that?
Hey, you'll know in an hour and 19 minutes. I do know.
All right.
I know, but
okay.
we've been given strict orders to.
I get it.
To let it be announced on ACC Network. But I'll say this: it's going to be an incredible schedule. It may be obviously the best schedule we've had since we were in the Southwest Conference. It may be the best ever because our non-conference schedule's really good too. I think we're going to announce that today, maybe as well. So, our home schedule is going to be really, really good. And I think there's going to be a lot of people filling up Ford Stadium with the new facility being built on time to start next season. And with we're going to have 7 home games, and I think people are going to really like who we're playing.
Yeah, Coach, I'm an ACC grad. I'm an FSU guy, so I hope I'm coming to visit you guys in Dallas next year.
At some point.
I look forward to seeing you.
Rhett, last thing for me, and we appreciate your time. Congratulations, and I know there's more, as you said, bigger fish to fry, but enjoy it. How much has this brought together the former players at SMU from back in the day, whatever decade? How much more have you seen them involved now?
Well, this whole situation has been massive for our university. Now, to your point, when I got hired, it was an important thing for me and our staff that all our former players felt welcome back. We reached out to the Eric Dickersons and the Craig James and all of them immediately. Harvey Armstrong, Jerry Balls, you name it. Everyone from 70s, 80s, to recent. We want them all to be around. So we've been working on that. But, yeah, Eric Dickerson was here this weekend for homecoming. He spoke to the team on Friday. And, James Prochet was standing on the sidelines during the game. Harvey Armstrong was here. We want a lot of those guys to be back. But that Friday, I'm just telling you, when it got announced about the conference deal, there was grown, and when I say grown, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old men crying everywhere. And it just showed you, those are people that have lived the entire 40 years, since SMU got the death penalty. And, to be back at the level that they feel like SMU belongs because we had been there on that national stage, it was just a sense of great joy and relief for them. And then for our players to see that and be able to feel like they can come back with great pride, see what it's going to do for our entire university. It's just been a very uniting moment, and it's been really cool to see. But to your specific question on the former players, they are coming back more and more. We started that. Obviously, the momentum with the program definitely helps because everybody wants to, be around and be involved with the winner.
Appreciate your time. Tell Chris Smith we appreciated getting you on as well. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Rhett
Appreciate
Lashley, SMU football coach. They're 6-2, losses to OU 28-11, 34-17 to TCU. They are at the top in the American Conference, incredibly competitive. It's great to have him on the show. Jeff Traylor, by the way, will join us in a little less than 2 hours, and tomorrow UNT's Eric Morris will be a part of the show. All right, so there we are with that.
Well, that'll be cool to see their schedule get dropped tonight.
Yeah, it sounds exciting.
Sounds like Paul may be able to go to a game next year based on the way he answered that, but who knows? At some point that will happen. I mean, Florida State will travel there either next year or sometime in the years to come. That's a given. But
they got to get him there before they try and leave, right? I mean, so and it wouldn't surprise me to see the big three wind up with 2 road games each in Stanford, Cal, and
damn it, send them out there. Send them out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and look, I'm all for it anyway. Here's how I feel about it. If your team is good, and all 3 of those teams should always feel like they're good, it doesn't matter where they send you to play. Just go play the game.
Well,
so
now that you're undefeated and 5th,
I mean, I would say that even if we still sucked. I mean, like if you're supposed to be good, then playing in San Francisco shouldn't matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Preston Stone's having a really good little run here. Their sophomore quarterback. They've got a lot of guys they got through the portal, so they've got some weapons around him, and some guys they're developing. As he mentioned, their defense is getting better. I mean, they're going to have a massive step up in competition next year. From playing Rice and Temple and those teams to playing the Florida States and the Miamis, and I know there's plenty of others in that league that aren't like juggernauts by any means, but they're ramping up for a pretty big step up the ladder, and it sounds like it's all very exciting because they're having success right now, and they feel like with their obviously massive backing and investments, they've got an opportunity to really launch into this new-looking ACC and play some of these bigger programs and get some wins and make a mark. And so, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating next few years for SMU, and they had a fork in the road. They're like, we're going to be the SMU that we've been for the last 20, 30 years, or we're going to try to be what we were at our glory days. And we're going to have to spend millions upon millions of our own money as boosters to get us there. But we feel like the risk is worth it, and they did it, and they got into the ACC improbably. And now let's see what they can do with it, because this is unlike anything we've really seen before. So this is going to be a very interesting run for the Ponies.
They feel strong enough about who they are, what they have, that they gave up money, a lot of it, to have the opportunity to compete in the ACC. I know a lot of people didn't want them. They're almost like they were the cast-off, and that's fine too, because different fan bases, rivalries, bitterness. Hey, good for them. They got it done, and they will start in the ACC next season.
I think you were out, Smoky, when we had Rhett Lashley on the last time. But Craig and I asked him about that, about when they had come in, to the league and all of it. But he specifically said, look, for us as a football program, they're not looking at it as they're giving up money. They're operating on the same budget they've had. Right. They just are just going to have to go through and deal with the fact that the other guys might have more, which they've always done. Yeah. So to them, it's not a change. It'll only be a change whenever they do get the more money. That way, it'll just be one day they open the door and there's a check there that wasn't there before, and they're like, oh, this is great. This is worth what we did it all for.
The only question is what that looks like by the time we get to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, what is that league looking like now? I mean, at least for the foreseeable future, all that's going to come with time. We'll figure that all out. But for right now, they're going to be in a league with Florida State and Miami and North Carolina and so on and so forth, and playing those schools home and away and all of that. And I think the way it was positioned was, well, they're losing all this money. Well, they're not losing it. They're not losing it. They didn't have it. They're spending money to make money down the road. They're spending money to raise their prestige level and take this maybe final opportunity ever to get into a realm that otherwise they're never going to get into if they don't make this move right now. And so I think from a fan point of view, I would absolutely love what my boosters and my administration pulled off. And the excitement level is through the roof, I would imagine, up there on the hilltop for those hardcore fans of the Ponies. So
you have, thank you, K-State at Texas. You have Bedlam. And right now, who do you like more in that game with the way Oklahoma State is playing and Oklahoma coming off the loss to Kansas? Big 12 standings, Garrett. Look at the mass of humanity. 5 4-1s. There are 2 3-2s in Kansas. West Virginia with a very nice win down in Orlando against UCF. I missed that one. Kansas right there. And then really, if you're not 3-2 or better, you're probably pretty much done, unless you have a schedule that allows you to catch and pick off some of the teams right ahead of you. But how about that right now? And not everybody plays everybody because it's a larger, no longer everybody plays everybody's schedule. So there's going to be some intriguing potential tiebreakers along the way. Not everyone's going to end up in a 5-way tie.
Well, I mean, alone this weekend, 1 plays 3, 2 plays 4, and 5 plays 6.
Yep.
So the top 6 are all playing each other, and that will all get sorted out. So Kansas is either going to fall to the wayside or they're going to be right there in the mix and joined by some others that are above them right now. And then there's going to be some separation with the 5-1 loss teams. I mean, something has to give in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. And not only do you gain a game on them, but then you have head-to-head. So It's like you have 2 games on that. Same thing with Texas and K-State. So, Iowa State can effectively eliminate the Jayhawks, or they're going to find themselves behind Kansas by, a couple of measures. So, yeah, it's going to be – and even like the bottom level of the games where there's clearly like a Tier 2 now – I mean, TCU Tech's still an interesting game to me. That's still an interesting game as far as positioning and just where both of those programs are. Baylor Houston, I know most people are not going to care, but, it's so ugly you can't look away. How ugly can it get for one of those teams? So, yeah, I mean, it's still going to be a fun storyline here and there at the bottom. But that top level, I mean, this weekend, it's all about the Big 12. Everybody's been gawking over the pack, and rightfully so. And the SEC's had their moments here and there. But this weekend, in my opinion, it's all about the Big 12 and the separation there at the top.
Texas Tech and everyone below them on that line, they have, if they lose, obviously right now Cincinnati can't lose again. Talking about bowl eligibility right now, some of these are just scraping the bottom of the barrel. Everybody, Texas Tech and below, if they lose, they can't lose again to get in the bowl game.
Yep.
If they lose, they can't lose again. So Houston and Baylor, someone's going to have a 6th loss and can't lose again, and most likely both of those teams are not going to get to 6 wins based on what we see.
No, I don't think so. I don't think based on what we see, and I don't know who wins that game. And then, for even Tech, I mean, they don't win that game, and then they got to go beat Kansas. They'd have to beat UCF, which is manageable. Then you got to go beat Texas, though. Yep. So, you look at just individually how that would break down. I mean, same thing for TCU and their schedule of having to go play Texas, having to play Oklahoma. The Baylor game's always weird with those 2 teams, no matter where they are in the standings any given year. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some who's still eligible for the Big 12 title race. There's going to be some separation there. And then, yeah, as far as the bowl eligibility question goes, there's going to be some separation there as well. So it's a fascinating weekend as we get into this final month for the Big 12 in particular. And, I'm very much looking forward to talking more about these games, but definitely watching them come Saturday.
And we'll talk about Oklahoma State, Kansas State, here in the next couple of segments coming up.
Yeah, I am not looking forward to making a score prediction this week because when you ask me who wins between Houston and Baylor, certainly not my eyeballs. And that, it's just, I mean, and it's really hard. Just going back 2 weeks ago when I'm trying to think of Baylor, the only reason I picked Baylor to lose to Cincinnati was, I mean, they were going to Cincinnati. I couldn't think of a good reason other than that. And they won that game, but this is the same thing. I can't think of a good reason why either one of these teams would win this game.
No, I did pick them to win at UCF and Cincinnati, and that's fortunate there because, oh, my God, it could have gone the other way. But they lost, and about 11 or 10 of the 12 of us on Sikkim365.com predicted Iowa State to win the game straight up, so we weren't surprised by anything that we saw. It was also, there was one throw on the second or third play of the game when Shapen had Dabney open on what would have been about a 40-yard post and dropped it. And you talk about getting off to a fast start and then wah, and so they get beat, and Iowa State was the better football team. Now, let's do the schedule because we're up against the break and we have to come back with Dave Hunziker. Here is the schedule coming up this weekend. Kansas State, big noon, kickoff. Kansas State, Texas, and Austin, we mentioned that. Baylor and Houston relegated to ESPN+. That's happening quite a bit. There you have the game at night, KU and Iowa State, which is very intriguing. TCU and Tech, someone trying to survive there. You have OU and Oklahoma State, 2:30, right there.
Should have been at night. BS. Bedlam at night should have been the case, in my opinion. But
on ABC.
Whatever.
And then UCF 3:30 against Cincinnati, FS1.
That's somebody's getting their first Big 12 win.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, granted, it's against another new school. You'd rather it be against like one of the mainstays that you joined with. But somebody's going to not be 0-6 in conference play in the UCF Cincinnati game. So that's actually big for different reasons.
My early guess on that one would be, and I don't know why that one's in Eastern time and the other, well, I guess I is playing at Eastern time, but UCF would be the one I would think in that one because they don't finish well, but Cincinnati just can't get started.
We'll have the top 25, the bangers and more, and should be fun. In fact, Texas and Kansas State is a banger. And then you have the teams right outside the top 25 in the Big 12 trying to get there maybe with Oklahoma State and whoever else. When we come back, Dave Hunziker, he's the voice of Oklahoma State Cowboys football. Aaron Lockett, former Kansas State star, that Lockett family that fed the K-State monster for a long, long time. We'll also hear from J.J. Joe, Phil Bennett, Jeff Traylor, Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace. It's worth the drive wherever you are in the state of Texas because an MRI on the average is $1,100, which means it can be higher than that. Ideal MRI with a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. I've been in it 3 or 4 times. Every time it's been fantastic, like clockwork. By the end of the afternoon or evening, usually early evening, I've gotten a note that says, hey, your images are up in the portal, and even maybe a little summary. And then, of course, the doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, whoever your doctor might be, they get those images too, whether it's a ligament or a muscle, your shoulder, your back, your knee, or somewhere else. Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time. It's an amazing opportunity for you to save money, get a great MRI, and your doctor then all of a sudden can help you get rid of the pain. IdealMRI.com.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgan Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgan Ford. Bird Colgan Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, is your holiday item superstore. Half spiral hams, 8 to 10 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Pit hams, 12 pounds for $4.45 a pound. Bone-in hams, 18 to 22 pounds for $3.40 per pound. Whole raw turkeys from 12 to 16 pounds for $2.50 a pound. Whole smoked turkeys, that's smoked turkeys at 9 to 12 pounds for $3.75 a pound. And mini pit hams, 6 to 8 pounds for $5.50 $6.99 a pound. All items will be in stock starting on November the 8th. And don't forget, they have full service butcher shop where you can find what you want: pork, poultry, seafood, and beef. And I bring up the beef because big beef tenderloin or a prime rib. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family. Full service bakery with fresh baked kolaches every morning and bread and cold beer and wine. Tailgate needs from pellet fuel to charcoal. Waco Custom Marketplace and the holiday items are in stock starting November the 8th at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We have gone through the Big 12, looked at the games coming up this week, looked at the teams who remain red hot, and also those who are needing desperately to get a win. Oklahoma State at one point was kind of in that mode of needing a win. Well, now all of a sudden they're red hot. Ollie Gordon II, we mentioned his unbelievable streak. Dave Hunziker, voice of Oklahoma State, joins us on 365 Sports. Dave, is it Ollie Gordon II? Is that what been the, I guess you could say, the switch to turn this team on, or what?
Well, it's been collective. The offensive line is healthier and improved. They settled on a quarterback, Alan Bowman, which I think probably helped stabilize everything offensively. And they've been, despite a lot of injuries at receiver, they've held up. So Ollie is definitely the guy, but there's been a lot of work done at other spots offensively to help allow him to have the success he's had. So he's been the leader, but there's been a lot of other people in supporting roles.
Did Mike Gundy kind of, I mean, he's never going to oversell or undersell anything, but was he prepared for early season growing pains because they didn't knowing that if they got through it, that they might be pretty good?
You know, I think it's for everybody. It's a feeling out process, trying to figure out, how you manage players in the portal. They had basically 12 new players that they brought in out of the portal. They lost 17, so it was a little tricky, but I think it's just a feeling out process. You're trying to keep everybody happy. You've brought in a new quarterback. You had one left over, Garrett Rangel, who started 4 games last year that you really like. You wanted to give him a chance. Coach's son, Gunner, had a really good preseason camp, so he felt like he needed to give him a chance. And then, there's definitely a feeling out process. And you had 3 running backs, too, for that matter. 2 other running backs they really liked, Jaden Nixon and Elijah Collins, who came from Michigan State. So I think it took them time to sort things out, figure out who the right guys were to play. And then I think the biggest thing was to settle on offense, what they wanted to do rushing the football and they went more to a power run game.
What has impressed you about the steady hand in Alan Bowman? He doesn't have like the crazy 500 yards and 4 touchdowns or anything like that, but he has a couple of scores. He protects the football for the most part. It seems to be a steady hand there. What have you thought about his play thus far?
Oh, he's older. He's mature. He doesn't try to take things that aren't available. He just sort of understands where he is and what he is and lives in that world. And, he's already graduated from college, and so I think he spends about all his time watching video when he's not at practice. And again, there's just and when you're running the ball like that, there's so many offshoots off of it. The tight end has been far more involved in the passing game at Oklahoma State than what it's been in recent years, and they're using really a true tight end in the true sense. A lot more this year than they have in the past. The running backs are involved more in the passing game than they've been in the past. So again, there's sort of a collective thing going on here. When you run the ball, teams like Cincinnati try to overplay the run, then you should be able to throw it. And, they've been able to take, again, they're only averaging about 10.5 yards per catch, which is one of the lowest in college football, but it really hasn't mattered. And so they do their best not to turn it over, don't force things. They'll take a few shots down the field, but not a lot. But the home run plays have come from Ollie Gordon rushing the ball.
I saw this quote from Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator. I kind of joke, but it's like trying to tackle a giraffe. He's got a long guy. His limbs are everywhere. He's still very powerful. If you stand behind him in practice, there's freaking muscles everywhere. I hate saying awkward, but he's got an awkwardness that is a positive. Is that kind of what you see too, Dave?
Yeah, I would. And, he's very diligent in terms of how how he goes about his business. And, there's been a lot of there's great camaraderie across the board offensively. I think there's been a lot of things in sync with the offensive line. It's just sort of progressed, but and downhill is the way to go now. There's no doubt. That's the world in which they really live is going downhill. And, when they run the ball, it's between the guards.
Dave, how much malaise is there? I don't know, malaise is not the right word, or it's a bummer that this is the last Bedlam we may see for the foreseeable future.
Well, there is some for sure. And I think the bigger emotion is wanting to win because this is the last one for the foreseeable future. Could be a bowl game or something that gets snuck into the equation at some point down the line. I think that's the biggest thing here is a desire to win this one because it's the last one for who knows how long. We've had 2 years to get ready for this. We've known this day was coming. So I don't know that I don't know that there's any sadness necessarily. There's probably going to be some, but I think that time has probably come and gone. Now it's more of just a hunger to win this game to make sure you've got the last win in the series before it goes into the dark for quite a while.
Dave, just how much excitement do you already feel for it? I mean, the only way this could be setting up better is if, both teams were undefeated, but I mean, they're both right there in the thick of the Big 12 title race. I know Oklahoma's coming off with a loss, but there's some jockeying to be done, plus bragging rights for, as you both mentioned, the foreseeable future. Do you already feel that sense of buzz around the state here on a Monday for what's coming up on Saturday?
Well, it's a lot better than it would have been a month ago when Oklahoma State was stumbling. Yep. I mean, now the game does have conference championship game implications. It does have, on a limited basis, some national ramifications. That was not going to be the case a month ago. So it's in a much different position than what it was. Is it as prominent nationally as it's been in most other years? No, because you've had a lot of these games in the recent history, especially you go back to 2016, 2017, 2015, and a bunch of years in there where both teams were ranked in the top 10, 2021, I believe, top 10 for both teams, sometimes even higher. And there was a lot on the line, both bragging rights-wise and Big 12 race-wise, and then a third piece of it, the national part of it. So it's not quite at that level in terms of that, but it's a lot more that way than it was going to be a month ago.
Earlier, we asked about Mike Gundy, and did he almost slow play this team? The NIL, the transfer portal, we know he's not a big fan of it, but he just kind of kept doing what he does. How much has he discussed that of late, or is once he's in the season, it's all about just the season?
No, he knows. I mean, he recognizes they're feeling their way along in this portal, and they're he's realized that it's just part of life now, and you have to adapt it and have to figure out how you're going to use it and make it work and how to build a team with it. So he's a lot more amenable to it than he was, that's for sure. But I think he also is just like a lot of other coaches learning on the fly about, hey, how do you manage a team like this? One thing he has talked a lot about is that they got back from Iowa State and he said, guys, we don't have any energy. We don't have any juice. And he kind of looked around the locker room before the game. Everybody's on their phone, kind of doing their own thing. And they got some of the guys together and said, hey, what do you want? We need to completely crank up the atmosphere in the locker room and get everybody together and get everybody on the same page and get everybody going. And that's played some role in this. I mean, just the entire atmosphere on game day around the locker room, sort of the mood of the team has changed. It's not that it was bad. It was just, I think, part of what happens when you have a lot of new players blending with a team that has a lot of young players in prominent roles. And so you have guys don't know each other. And so they've really expedited that process. I think it's mattered a lot.
Dave Hunziker, voice of Oklahoma State, with us on 365 Sports. They had the 7-point win after the disaster. Not disaster. Iowa State's pretty good. Losing to Iowa State, 7-point win against Kansas. How much the way they bounce back to get wins like that? Because in the Big 12, we see teams that go 9-3 one year and then 4-8 the next because they don't get the close wins. How critical were those?
Oh, they were huge. The Kansas State game, your season's on the line. You lost back-to-back games, South Alabama and Iowa State. and not looked great doing it, although there were some signs of progress at Iowa State. And K-State was, still sort of a darling at that time because they won the Big 12 last year. They demolished Oklahoma State in Manhattan 48-0 last season. So there was part of that was motivating Oklahoma State. But in K-State's still a darling, but they it was a big win to kind of knock them off because that didn't look like a good matchup on paper, but it turned out that it was better than they thought. And then you play a Kansas team that was really hot coming in and had rushed the football at will on most of the teams they played. And they, and Kansas had a really, really hard time rushing the football against Oklahoma State. I don't think they got to 100 yards if my memory serves me correctly. So those were, you not only were winning games, but you were doing so in a way that it was easy to see the progress you'd made. It wasn't smoke and mirrors. You could see tangible progress being made. And that, I think that fueled them as much as anything.
Mike Gundy kind of gets compared a little bit to, and I may have been guilty of doing this, but like Dabo Swinney and that coaches who liked it better the old way. Dabo Swinney hasn't adapted to the new way yet. Mike seems to have done that, though. I mean, maybe begrudgingly at first, but, he's going to be a dude who's set in his ways. But how much does it speak that he was able to go, all right, look, the transfer portal's here. I could not like it as much as I don't like it, but I've got to go shop at that store because everyone else around me is.
I think there's some of that for sure. I think Mike doesn't get nearly enough credit for being willing to change. May not have been with the portal, but look what they did in the offseason. They completely overhauled their run game. Now, they were still doing some of the old stuff early, but now it's gap scheme, it's power run game. It's worked because they felt like they needed to do that against the three-man front. Defensively, they overhauled that. They went away from a four-man front. They went to an Iowa State style, if you will, three-man front defense, with a man in the middle in the secondary and playing that way. It felt like they needed to adapt. Another thing they adapted is they spent a ton of time and continue to spend a ton of time working on defending fourth downs. And as a result, they've had big stop after big stop in terms of fourth down defense. They had big stops against K-State. They had big stops against Kansas. Opponents are 3 of 16 on fourth down against Oklahoma State. It's really sexy right now for everybody to act like they're a riverboat gambler and go for fourth downs. If you do that against Oklahoma State, they're probably one of the few teams that's practiced it because he talked about how defensive players aren't used to defending the chains. Well, they do it here, and the teams that have tried it have found out there's a plan for this here in terms of defending fourth downs. So that's another thing he's innovated. He doesn't get enough credit because he doesn't usually brag about himself. He just does his thing. But, you've had some major changes on offense and defense. You've embraced a whole new philosophy with fourth down on defense, and it's all working. So, that he gets a lot of publicity when he sort of goes against the flow, but I don't think he gets enough credit, not even close, for the things that he's willing to change and make drastic changes when he sees the need. And he's always done that, and this year there's been a ton of that.
Dave, when it comes to this matchup with Oklahoma, what stands out to you as far as maybe some questions you have still about Oklahoma State or things that you could look at as perhaps, I don't know if weaknesses is the right word, but how do you sort of view this matchup from the Oklahoma State point of view of what they need to get done and maybe what they're, I guess, maybe a little bit worried about?
Well, I think Oklahoma will do what Cincinnati did, and they're going to dare you to throw it. And your receivers are going to have to win. Oklahoma State, though, is really depleted at receiver right now. So that's a concern. Leon Johnson is a Division III transfer that played in a prominent role for the first time Saturday night against Cincinnati, and he had a huge game. They wanted to redshirt him because they wanted him to have another year of in the weight room and just more years to refine his skills, but now they're forced into playing him. So he'll have to be good. So you'll need to be able to win at wide receiver so that Oklahoma can't overplay the run. Otherwise, you'll be dealing with an extra guy in the box, and that'll make things a little trickier. Defensively, when Oklahoma State has struggled, they've given up big plays in the passing game. I think they're facing by far the most explosive team throwing it that they've seen up to this point. So the secondary will have to hold up. And you've got a lot of young guys back there. So that's going to be the key. I think you need to be able to make sure you can throw it enough to force Oklahoma to respect the pass, and then defensively you can't give up the home run pass plays, which has been that's been a problem all year.
Dave, it's a heck of a run, man. The Big 12, there is nobody left that's undefeated after Texas lost to OU, and of course then Oklahoma loses to Kansas. It's chaos. I know Oklahoma State's right in the middle of that, but is it kind of for you to look at it? Well, this is the way it's supposed to be, with almost elimination games coming up the next 2 or 3 weeks.
It's what can happen when everybody doesn't play each other.
No, that's
because
right.
You don't have things getting settled on the field, and you don't look at the schedule down the line and say, well, that will take care of itself, because those two haven't played each other. Now, because you don't have the round-robin schedule, you look at it and say, well, I don't know how that's going to get settled, because they don't play each other. So that's one of the things that makes it even muddier is, now you can have a couple of teams that catch a weaker schedule, and Oklahoma State's one of them. I mean, their conference schedule is probably – it's at the beginning of the season, we thought it was a really weak conference schedule. It turned out to be stronger than we would have thought. But, if you happen to catch a weak schedule and avoid some of the big boys, then you could be in a position where, you're right there tied with, that other team that you've not played and won't play. So that makes sorting this out a lot trickier. And I think that's why we're so congested, is that you don't have teams playing each other and beating each other and kind of setting up a natural pecking order. When you don't play each other, that doesn't happen.
Dave, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Have fun. I know you will. Bedlam Saturday, Oklahoma State and OU. Oklahoma coming off the loss to Kansas. And I think that they were a little fragile against UCF. That game was obviously a bang-bang. The Texas game, bang-bang. In this conference, every year, and it's not always the teams you expect to be at the top of the conference. You win close games, and all of a sudden you may be in conference play 6-3 or better. And here you have Oklahoma State after getting that South Alabama loss. You said, oh, my God, they're going to go 3-9. They're going to run not Gundy out of town, because I don't think they ever will. But it did not look good at that time.
But those are the kind of losses that you have that make you, like, athletic departments look at the whole thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody sits down like, how do you lose to South? Like, it wasn't like that was a random road game or a bowl game where, 15 guys sat out because of the draft, or, everybody had COVID. Like, they lost badly at home to South Alabama. Like, that should not have happened. And they had to, kind of look inside, and they figured it out. I mean, that's why, changing coaches isn't always the best thing. Sometimes the guy who's been there a while can figure it out if you just give him a minute.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really interesting game. Oklahoma got a bad taste in their mouth after Kansas, but you can't say that they weren't playing with fire already. So it wasn't surprising that they got burned. I think, just the way that they got burned in some ways in that game, you can question the play calling of Jeff Lebby, getting away from Tyree Walker when he was having such a monster game and you were running it effectively on the ground. I know there was massive complaints about, why you didn't stick with the hot hand, and you can pick apart this and that as far as that game goes. But, on the Oklahoma State side of things, it's been all good here lately. It's been really good. Now, he did mention, though, a couple of those issues, like Leon Johnson having to be forced into action and unable to probably preserve his red shirt because they're just so depleted at wide receiver. I mean, I guess the good news is he had a huge performance last weekend, but it also sucks that you're probably not going to be able to execute your plans on red shirt and keeping him around longer. But, I mean, yeah, both teams have their issues, but, man, this is going to be so sexy. I mean, just in terms of all the things, the only way it could be better is just if they were unbeatens, and they were playing for the preservation of a perfect record and a playoff spot. But in some ways, they're still playing for a playoff spot in Oklahoma's case. It's not entirely ruled out just yet, but it definitely took a big dent this past weekend. And the thing that stands out to me about Oklahoma State as well in this game is we were just talking about the schedules. Do y'all realize if they beat Oklahoma, who they have remaining on their schedule? They're looking at 10-2 right down the barrel. Mm-hmm. They play at UCF, which you'd feel good about that. I mean, are they going to stop Ollie Gordon?
Yeah.
Is UCF's defense going to stop Ollie Gordon?
I don't
think so.
Then they play another defense.
They play at Houston.
Right.
Okay, I think that they can take care of that. And then it's BYU at home. They get the 3 of the 4 new schools, and they get 4 of them. They got all 4 in the last 5 games of the year. The only interruption is Oklahoma. So they dispatch Cincinnati with ease. They play OU, and then they get the other 3. The one that you would be worried about playing on the road, you play at home with BYU. So, I mean, I know the team itself can't look that far ahead, but you look at it now, and they take care of business. They got 10-2 straight down the barrel, which is amazing given where they were at the start of this season.
Hey, Texas drilled Brigham Young. Go get my wallet. Seriously, I'm putting out $50.
There.
That's enough of this.
Texas drilled BYU. I'm at least starting to catch it now, but they drilled them. That never was close. Drilled them.
But
just drilled them.
By the way, Oklahoma State might be on the part of taking advantage of the schedule that the Big 12 gave them, as where Baylor, on the other hand, was handed 8 home games and has lost 5 of them.
Well, and the only one doesn't count in really my opinion. But Oklahoma State has played Kansas State and Iowa State. They're both at the top in Kansas.
Beat West Virginia and Morgantown.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not an easy win, given West Virginia's a pretty good win. West Virginia this past weekend. That's a good weekend, or a good win for them. Yeah, they lost to Iowa State in Ames, but
which kick-started there.
I think they've been really good these last few weeks, obviously, which is why we're talking about them at length. But this Bedlam game sets up to really set the table in a major way for both squads. Whoever emerges is going to be feeling pretty good. But Oklahoma State, if they can get this win, I mean, they are sitting really pretty, looking at 10-2 and possibly a spot in the Big 12 title game if things go their way. So, what a run.
An Ollie Gordon note that I want to pass along. I want you to think about what he's done. He now has 74% of the rushing yards for Oklahoma State. It is a one-man show. Marcus Carroll, who's at Georgia State, number 2 in the country with just over 1,000 yards. He is 69% of their rushing offense. Jonathan Brooks at Texas, 64% of their offensive rushing yards. Taj Brooks at Tech, seems like he gets the ball all the time, 63%.
He's having a great year.
And then the Notre Dame running back, is it Estime?
Estime,
61%. Those are 5 of the top running backs in the country. There's 2 or 3 in that mix too, 6 of them. And he has 74% of their rushing yards, and he's done it in about a month. Pretty impressive. All right, we're not done. Coming up in just around the corner, Aaron Lockett, Kansas State. Here they come. Heck of a game in Austin. Can't wait. Big noon kickoff is there. 11 o'clock kick. K-State and UT. Aaron Lockett next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And when I say used to be, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It is just something that happens. It just occurs. Like some people have high cholesterol from birth. Some people have issues with their heart, or some people have whatever things from birth. And also, testosterone can be a part of that. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. You hear a lot about the sex drive, ED, whatever, but it's so much more than that, too. That's a big deal. But also, it's your energy. You're lethargic. You don't feel the same. You're not sleeping well. Your focus isn't the same. Dr. Ken Petty will set you up with blood work, take care of the blood work. You contact them at PettyClinicLowT.com. Gets the results. If it's too low, your testosterone level, he can then put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can be the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, need to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Aaron Lockett, Kansas State ex-wide receiver, played in the NFL, played in the CFL. We've had Aaron on before to talk about Kansas State, and of course they get themselves set. He was an All-American. As well at Kansas State, all Big 12 4 times in the 4 years he was there. Aaron, thanks for your time with Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak. Do you have a memory of the Kansas State-Texas game when you were there?
We only played Texas once.
Oh, okay.
And a good friend of mine was Quentin Jammer. And so Quentin didn't play that game, and I told him he didn't play because he didn't want to play against me. But we ended up playing well that game. I think David Allen took one to the house. Beasley hit me and Quincy on a couple of passes. My redshirt freshman year, we played him with Ricky Williams, and that was an interesting game. I was on the bench, right? I wasn't playing yet, but I got a chance to see him up and close. But yeah, Texas has always been a distant. I wouldn't even call them a rivalry, right? Just a distant competitor for us, but we always seem to play well against them.
Aaron, this is a Kansas State team and a coaching staff that is very adaptable to what goes wrong. What about Chris Klieman? I mean, they lost some games that they probably didn't think they were going to lose, and then they've adjusted. What about his coaching staff and his style makes him able to do this where a lot of coaches just can't do it? They're going to do things the way they plan on doing it and try to work it out on the back end, but not Chris Klieman.
Yeah, kudos to Klieman. He's done an excellent job. He's coming to this program. He's finally got his guys in, right, his recruiting guys, and he's running his style. He's got some people familiar with the program, and he's got some people that do it the right way. And so for him, he's finding a skill set that allows him to go out there and be what you just said, flexible. And so he's got, multiple quarterbacks. He's got multiple running backs. He's got, different receivers he can use. And he's also got, a home run hitter with Ben Sinnott, right? And so for him, he's got flexibility and options, and I think it's starting to pay off for him.
What have been your thoughts on what you've seen at that quarterback position and what he's trying to work through right there with obviously having two guys who can both make impacts? I mean, I know Will Howard was the man entering, but you got to love the youngin' too, right, based on what we've seen so far. How do you feel about that situation?
I think it'll play itself out. I think obviously Will has earned his time on the field. Will came in last year. His touchdown-to-interception ratio was magnificent. He played well, got him to the big dance as far as Big 12 championship, won the big one. And so Will came back with high expectations, and so people had a target on his back. And so Will's been pretty solid the majority of the year, right? He, of course, the Oklahoma State game, wasn't his best one, but he came back last week and played lights out. So for Avery, I think it's a benefit for Avery to be able to sit back and watch how it works. And then when you get your opportunity, use the skill set you have. But obviously, Will opens up the entire playbook based on his experience.
What have you thought about Avery Johnson? Just sensational, right out of the gates and big plays with his feet. But what have you made of just his game from the sampling we've seen so far?
I think for him, he's just getting his feet wet. I think he has immense talent. He has no ceiling. What he did against the Texas Tech game means he's not afraid of the moment. And so obviously he's had the exposure from a high school standpoint coming as Gatorade Player of the Year, but I think he's taken that to a next level. And so you'll see him go out there. He's reading defenses. They're starting to open up and let him throw the ball. But, I don't think he doesn't have his experience, right? And so obviously every time he sees something, it's the first time he's seeing it based on his ability to play against these teams. But he definitely will be somebody to look out for the next couple of years for Kansas State football.
Aaron, they had that tough loss to Missouri on a 60-something yard field goal at the buzzer. Yeah. And then they lose the game to Iowa State in Ames. It was a close game. What was the buzz around Manhattan at that particular time? Not that they were, up in arms, but what was it like at that time?
I think the Missouri game was one. Obviously, we felt like we let get away. Credit to Missouri, right? They played tough. They're still playing tough right now. They've got a tough front seven. If I remember correctly, it was rainy. It was just one of those games where anytime you go into Columbia, you never know what you're going to get. And obviously, if a kid is willing to hit a 61-yarder, then he well deserves to win a game. And so once again, it was like last year against Tulane, right? It was early. You're just getting all of your people together. You don't want to lose that one, but it's always better to lose one early than late if you're going to lose one at all.
Aaron, this Texas team is probably playing with their backup quarterback in Malik Murphy, unless Quinn Ewers comes back. He played well last week. What do you do when a guy's second start to rattle him?
Well, first of all, I think you have to appreciate his talent, right? Mm-hmm. If anybody gets a scholarship or is on the Texas football team, there's a good chance they can play some really good football. Living out here in Houston, Texas, I will say high school football is different in the state of Texas. So all of those guys that they have on the team have immense talent. So if you just think about it, even from a defensive perspective, right, bringing Catalina from Arkansas, you're bringing in Mitchell from Georgia. Like, they're bringing in talent along with the talent already there. So when a quarterback, I think for him, it's going to be his first time seeing Kansas State and seeing how they play defense. Obviously, you look on film, and so if you can throw a wrinkle in there too, whatever it is, whether you blitz or use a drop zone, whatever it is to get them confused, that one turnover can be the impact of this game. And so I expect, Simon and Van Malone and all of them to do what they normally do, come out and play hardcore football and maybe have a wrinkle or two somewhere in the game plan.
Texas has won 6 straight in this series. And K-State, for the most part, again, early on when the Big 12 was formed, as you mentioned, kind of had their way. There were some classic games too, but 6 straight. There's not many teams that have beaten Kansas State in the last decade 6 consecutive times. I don't think there are. Yeah.
No, we take pride in that, right? I think we try to learn from our mistakes and try to adjust accordingly. And so, we've got a good thing going. I think we're starting to get our mojo back, and we're running the football extremely well. Obviously, we can open up when we need to, but just that 2-headed monster we have back there, running back. Add in the third one, the quarterback. I'm feeling pretty confident that we'll go out there and play good football.
Aaron Lockett, former K-State All-American, 4-time Big 12 first-team All-Conference player with us as well. The family, who was growing up, the Lockett family? I can't even imagine the competitive nature of, even if you guys were playing like marbles. What was that like?
Honestly, it was a lot of people don't know. My dad played professional basketball. He played in the ABA for 2 seasons. He's a 6'5" point guard. So you talk about competitive. Between me, Kevin, and my dad starting off, that was the first wrinkle. And then Kevin decided to have boys, and it just doesn't stop now. And so he's got 4 boys. So with Tyler Sterling, Jordan, and Jacob, it's just competitive all the way around. But luckily enough, they all have the bloodlines. They all can play. Whether it's basketball, baseball, football, they're all athletic, right? And so just really trying to make sure we can give them the guidance and the tools they need to get the opportunity to be successful whenever that time comes.
What is it like now, the business of being a part of an NFL agent, I guess you could say, profession?
Yeah. For me, it's interesting because it's a different perspective, right? You're not the client anymore. You're not the player. And so now you put on a different lens. It's almost like a scouting profession. When you're looking at guys, you're trying to see, do they have long enough arms? How do they look in their hips? Can they get to the A gap, B gap? Can they cover? What's their weaknesses? And then you got to go sell that to the NFL, right? So when you're talking about your clients and what they look like, and so sometimes, athletes don't realize, like, I just played well. Yeah, but can you play well consistently? And how do you match up against certain defenses if you're an offensive player? And so for me, I love it. It's just an opportunity to engage with the next generation. Their talent is so much advanced than where we were, physically and mentally, just going out there and doing it. And so I love watching college sports where it is today. I think it's at its all-time high, and it's just competitive.
Aaron, you mentioned you're in Houston. Are you going to try to make it up to Austin? Are you having a chance to do that?
That's the goal. That is the goal, right? They made it 11 a.m. kickoff, of course. And so, somehow we'll burn the highway up early. But, yeah, that is the goal. I mean, anytime I get a chance to see Kansas State football, I owe them my life, right? And our family does as well, just based on the platform they've given us. And so we always try to support and root on the Wildcats.
What are your thoughts about the Big 12 changing with Texas OU on the way out, and then the 4 schools that joined this year and 4 more that join next year?
Yeah, for me, obviously it hurt when you was losing Texas and Oklahoma because, we've had history against those teams. But understandably, being able to bring in some of these other regions, I think is great for Big 12. It gives us exposure, right? So was there ever a time that you would think you would see BYU play West Virginia just based on geographically where they're located? And so being able to see that, and eventually the Colorado Buzz coming in, you've got all of these schools bringing in their tradition. And then what used to be just a Pac-12, Big 12 matchup in the Holiday Bowl, or even the old school Copper Bowl, right, with the Mountain West, you now get an opportunity to see it, week in and week out. So even last week, when Houston played Kansas State, they're so unfamiliar with each other that sometimes the games are lopsided, but over time, you'll start to see them come together and be extremely competitive. But from a recruiting standpoint, I love the fact that like a University of Houston now can compete with the Texas and the A&M, depending on if they're going to play in the SEC or in the Big 12. Do they want to play against some of their friends that go to Oklahoma State or go to Kansas University? And so because of that, I think it's great for the Big 12.
Aaron, do the new rules in college football, NIL, make it easier for you to explain what the next level is for college athletes now that they're having to do it? Or is it still difficult because there's not a lot of clarity and there's still a lot of noise in that arena?
100% easier. And what I mean by that is historically, you never could have agents talking to underclassmen, right? Obviously, the goal is not to talk about football or about representation on the field, but you never had the chance to get to know them as a person. And so even when you're doing marketing through NIL, you now get to spend time and build a relationship with these players. And it's really great from my side because it may say, you know what, I like you, but I don't think you're the right client for me. Or I love you and I really want to build a strong relationship. And hopefully when you decide to look for on-field representation, I'm in the consideration based on the relationship we've built through a marketing standpoint. So I think it's great. Now, on the flip side, there needs to be the education around, you're giving 18 to 21-year-olds a lot of money. How do they manage it to make sure they don't put themselves in a position to compromise not only their eligibility, but just the ability to make good decisions at that age. So they don't have as many liabilities. And so therefore, you just got cash coming in and they don't have anything to do with it. And so hopefully, they're getting that financial education to put some money away, maybe get a starter home, whatever it is, just so they can accelerate that curve of living life when that time comes.
Aaron, great to have you on when we can. Enjoy the game. I know you will. Appreciate your time, and ought to be one heck of a weekend in the Big 12, including that game in Austin. Have a great week.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Aaron Lockett, former K-State All-American, 4-time All-Big 12, an agent now, and living in Houston, also sometimes in Tulsa, and will be in Austin as Craig asked him for that game on Saturday.
Yeah, glad he's going to be able to make it down there. I mean, it's the last time that's going to happen for the foreseeable future. I know we say that with a lot of that, but that's true as we wind down here. There's a lot of the last time with Texas and Oklahoma. It's just the way it is. But K-State, these last 3 or so games have been just on an absolute tear. They dispatched with Texas Tech in the second half and made that a game that was once close, looked like it was pretty lopsided when all was said and done. And then these last 2 weeks against TCU and Houston, outscoring those two 82-3. Granted, they're in a different ballpark than Houston is right now, but the TCU win, the way that they just blew them out was pretty surprising. TCU's not a great team, obviously, but still, you don't lose 41-3 unless it's the national championship game. Then you lose worse. But other than that, I'm sorry I had to say that. But no, they've got a tough final month coming up. The Baylor game, okay, whatever. Like they'll handle their business there. But Texas, Kansas, on the road in Lawrence, and then you get Iowa State there at the very end in Manhattan. So that's stacking up to be a good little row of games there, depending on how things obviously start to go this weekend.
We're not done. We still have a long way to go, and we have some great guests lined up. Jeff Traylor later in the show. Phil Bennett at 5:05. I want to ask him about what Pat Narduzzi said at Pittsburgh about his talent and what Phil says as a former head coach. And then also there's a couple of bangers that we think we're going to have that represent UT. Cannot confirm those yet because I'm working on them for the coverage of what it looks like from the UT point of view and much, much more. Eric Morris, head coach at North Texas tomorrow. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great customer service and for great deals, whether they be on new or pre-owned vehicles. And I can speak to the customer service part. I haven't bought a car over at Richard Carr, although that is lined up to be the case whenever I do have the need to go and get a new vehicle. So if you're in the market right now, whether it's getting a new vehicle or whether it's getting a pre-owned vehicle or whether it's just getting service on your car, check out the great deals going on right now over at Highway 6, which is a bit torn up due to all the construction, but they're trying harder to make it easier to buy a new vehicle. And right now, qualified buyers can save $7,000 on a new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500 and finance for 0.9% for qualified buyers. They've got dozens of Sierra models on the lot, and they've got the inventory, they've got the pricing, they've got the financing, they got everything you want to get you into a new GMC Sierra today, including an additional $500 off for military and first responders. They've also got the perfect combination of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV in the Buick lineup. Ranked number one overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers, Buick offers amazing value, and right now you can save $5,000 on a new full-size 2023 Buick Enclave, $4,000 in savings on 2023 mid-size Buick Envisions, and again, an additional $500 off for military and first responders. So there's some new offerings for you. They've also got the trades, a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks, and their financing goal when it comes to those pre-owns is 100% credit approval. They say yes when others say no. So go and check out the dealership that's been in business and serving Central Texas for over 24 years, building a reputation along the way as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This segment with former Baylor quarterback and Baylor radio analyst J.J. Joe is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco.
Appreciate J.J. Joe on Mondays. It has not been easy because of the year that Baylor has had, and yet another loss at home against Iowa State. J.J. joins Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. J.J., Craig was bringing this up about Richard Reese. He was asked this during the media session. He wasn't a fluke last year, and yes, the offensive line might have been much better, but can you explain 10 carries in 3 weeks for a guy that was named on some All-American rookie teams or All-American freshman teams?
Hey, guys, how are y'all doing? Hey, that's a great question, Smoak. I'm not sure. I mean, I like I said, I'm not there every day, and I know early in the season, I was standing at, my soapbox about Monterey, and we finally got him going, and Richard Reese. I can understand yesterday a little bit because I think I actually said it on the air that I thought that game lent itself more for a Dawson Pendergrass type runner, just simply because it's wet, it's a lot of stuff. But still, I don't think he played at all in the second half. And I think it started to dry out just a little bit as we got late. So I was surprised that he didn't get as much run. But overall, I never felt that we were really threatening that game. So I guess I just didn't focus on it as much.
JJ, Blake had his worst game of the year on Saturday. And look, he was bound. I mean, nobody has 12 good ones, really. I mean, even in Heisman Trophy years, you always have one that is kind of a dud for players. But what was the biggest reason you saw for that on Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good one. Blake's actually played pretty decent against Iowa State. And on Saturday, and coming into the game, I actually wrote this, Iowa State, they were a pressure team. And since they got pressure, but they didn't sack the quarterback much, but make you move. And I thought a lot of that was due to the fact they dropped so many guys. They'll drop 7, 8 all the time and figure you won't be consistent. So I think early on, Blake wasn't seeing it as clean as he normally does. Of course, the rain didn't help either, because sometimes in the rain, you want to be 100% sure before you release it. So I'm really not sure. I think it was one of those games where Iowa State, realized that Blake had a good game against them last year. They also had film on kind of how our offense morphed last week. So I think they had a few games. And when you have a team that likes to drop a lot of guys, like they do, they drop 8 very consistently, they muddy up a lot of water, play a lot of games. And I think that's what they did. Plus, we never really got them into really what I would call advantageous downs and distances for us. And so it all kind of fell on Blake's shoulders, and he just didn't have a clean game. And, that happens. And hopefully this week, he'll play much better.
JJ, one of the recurring issues that have been brought up throughout the year and even dating back to kind of the start of the losing streak, so to speak, last year is the slow starts. And, Aranda addressed that, said he was surprised by that and whatnot on Saturday. But from a player's point of view, can you recall episodes of having slow starts? And if so, what was the cure-all eventually? What changed that, or what got your teams off to faster starts and not in that position to begin with?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have been. I want to say maybe it was my junior year. We just weren't as quick out the gate and got behind. I think that year we actually started out like a 1-3 or something. And really, Coach Reedy at that time was the offensive coordinator. Coach Tess last year, he would get us to the point where we're almost scrimmaging before the pregame. I tell you, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we would line up against like they do, like Baylor does, and we would actually hit. I mean, they wouldn't take anybody to the ground to kind of get us going. But I think beyond that, I think really what it is just the plan coming in. And think about this, guys. I mean, this is what we've seen the whole season. And I'm a firm believer that it is about plays in some sense of scheme, but a lot of it is about players. You'd be amazed at how many times teams with good players have energy because big plays are being made. If you think early on, second play of the game, Blake hits Drake Dabney on a skinny tight end post to his right. And if he catches it, he's at least going to make 15, 20 yards. But he drops it. We go 3 and out. We punt, and then they come down and score. And you can kind of feel okay, here we go. Because we hadn't played well at home. And that's what I mean about players. Like, to me, it's Dabney is the kind of player that, and he actually I think he came out and made a couple. If he makes that play, right, it may change the feeling and tenor of the game coming off of last week, but we didn't. And that's the kind of team we have this year. Unfortunately, we're just missing when we don't need to miss, and then it's impacting the whole energy of the whole game.
So, did this coaching staff misevaluate talent, or were they caught up in the scenario of this is the new world of how you recruit, and they weren't necessarily ready for that either? And this is what you get when you weren't ready for that.
That's man, that's a good question. Because I'll tell you, just looking at it, here's my concern. My concern has been, is like many other Baylor players, you're just concerned that for Baylor, and I've said this to you guys, if we miss, the climb back can be long and hard. Mm-hmm. And right now, the fact is, right? I mean, forget headlines. The fact is, we have not really been competitive against what I would call teams that were Power 5 last year. We've been competitive against two teams that were, one Power 5 team, which was Utah, and we've not won in a while against what I would call a Power 5 team from 2022. So that lends itself to one or two things in a combination. It's either we look at kind of our coaching and staff and evaluate, okay, hey guys, what we're doing, have teams caught up with us? Or then we look at the same time, we're looking at our players and saying, hey, did we miss something? And I think there's a combination in there that the staff knows much better than I do because they're with the players every day. But I would say that we're a little bit behind because think about it. Kansas and Kansas State and now Oklahoma and Texas are those expected. Those guys are where we feel like we should be because we were there. And it all boils down to kind of, the players that you're sending out there every day and every weekend, they're picking it up and are they executing?
JJ, in terms of that execution, I guess that's probably the answer to my next question. But if you could delve a little deeper, what is the issues or issue that stands out as the most glaring when it comes to their struggles on defense? Is it as simple as just missed tackles allowing big plays to bust open and hurt you, or is it a bit more complicated than that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty basic. I think if you look at it, and I go back, man, and watch some of these games, I definitely do watch the games coming up and stuff, at least the teams coming up, and you'll look at it and we'll have a young player bust or misread, or we'll have a veteran player consistently have a bust or misread. And I think it's more apparent and glaring to us because we are coming off of a group of players, defensively at least. They made the play. They made the right reads and play consistently. The Dylan Doyles, we saw those guys, and the guys we know that are in the NFL. And this year what's happening is, in addition to maybe us not being able to dislodge off blocks and stuff, we're making a misread, or maybe we're trying to do too much. And when that happens, man, people are coming out of the gate. And one of the things I've said in the past is that if that's the case, if you're going to struggle up front a little bit, you better have a bad son of a gun at safety. And I like our safety. Don't get this wrong. I like Lemire. I like Bobby. I like those guys. But if you're going to have some bust up front, you got to have a Chris Miller, a Graylin Arnold, JT Woods cleaning it up. You got to. And I think these guys are kind of young, and they're also sometimes making them mistakes.
JJ, it's not good. And you mentioned right now the recruiting, where they are, who they're getting, the commitments. I know they got a commitment from like 2 years from now, but there's some former players at the tailgate this past weekend. Blake Blackmore, of course, did his thing. And a lot of them, some of them said they feel like Baylor is recruiting talent, but they're not coaching them up, at least not in the right spots. And then some of them say they're just not getting enough talent. Which one do you think it might be? I know Paul kind of asked you that a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is it's a mix here. I read something today. They talked about the classes, upperclassmen and all that, and who recruited those, whether it was Rule or Randa. And I don't keep up with that stuff as much. Mm-hmm. But you look at the players, and you say, you have these young players that they were recruited by this staff that are playing well. I mean, they're playing solid football, especially on the edges, and they're performing. And then you'll also see in some spots, you see that you're expecting the guys that have been here, or even some young guys, to play at a high level, or at least learn. That was one thing that I was impressed by around the team, especially early on, because it seemed like he would talk about something one week and the next week it's fixed. Well, this year, it's like every time we'll talk about setting the edge. I don't know how many times I've heard Coach Aranda talk about setting the edge, playing solid, and we just cannot set an edge, man. And so, to me, that makes me think that one or two things, and I don't know. Either we have young men who can't do it, which is hard for me to believe, that we don't have young men who could set an edge and hold it. Or maybe what we're asking them to do, they're not able to do consistently. We need to change it.
JJ, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback, radio color analyst on Baylor Radio with us on Mondays at 4:45, and love the truth serum that he gives and the honesty that he gives, too.
Well, at this point, what are you going to do? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, you can't. There are times when a team is struggling, but you can see, they're young, or, they've got this injury or whatever. There's nothing they're struggling because they don't have the right players. They don't have them. And, it's difficult to call out players, but they are less talented than pretty much every team they play.
They are young. They are young, but they are also seasoned enough to not be having the types of issues that they're having. With as much of an experienced defensive line as you are, they're not getting any types of big plays from that defensive line. What should be a strength is not for you. Their strengths in the secondary, and that's where young guys are. Mm-hmm. But the problem, as I've stated over and over again throughout this season, has been that's all great, but if you're selling me on, all right, no, we're just building these guys up and you've got to give it time, and that's where the missed tackles come into play because they need to mature more or, whatever. It's you can sell me on all these things, but the problem is the transfer portal exists.
Yep.
So all these guys who might be good that are young and that you say are going to be something someday when it all comes together, it's but you can't even guarantee that those pieces will still be in play here in the next couple of months because for all we know, Caden Jenkins or Richard Reese or Monterey Baldwin. Name a guy that they have that's actually a major contributor or somebody who, could potentially be elsewhere. Those guys are going to be getting phone calls or text messages or DMs inevitably from other programs who are going to use how poor the performance has been as of late and Aranda being on a seat of some warmth level and those things against them. Now, you hope that, I know he said in your conversation that he's had those conversations and that they're, rest assured that everything's going to be okay in that regard. But, we know that means nothing really in the long run. Like, that means something for right now, but it means nothing once the time comes that they can actually explore their options. So, yeah, I'm looking for something to grab onto and hold onto and to chew on and believe yeah, okay, just wait, folks, just wait. But when you look around, there's really not anything you can point to and go this is why it is heading in the right direction. Because, it's like where are the guts? I would think if there is a gut check to be had with this team, it is this Saturday against Houston. If you go out on your freaking home field where you are 1-5 this year and your only win is against Long Island, who's not even an FBS team, if you go out there and you lose to a new booty in the Big 12, like in-state Houston, who just got beat $40 billion to nothing by K-State, I don't know how you prevent the seat from bursting into flames at that point. I really don't, because I don't know how people are going to have a tolerance or a patience for anything when it comes to just believing and continuing to buy in and continuing to support, because guys, it's just getting worse and worse every week. It's like a slow drip of maybe this week. And it's like, we're in week, 10 at this point?
Yeah.
It's week 10. So if it was going to happen, my gosh, it would have happened by now, wouldn't you think? Or is it just what it is? And it is just what it is at this point. So
you give me, and I'll do this. And again, we're covering it. You're sitting there. Give me something that's a ray of hope. That's what we've seen as far as, for example, if it was a young quarterback, because Shapen's been around a long time. If you had some young, dual threat, kind of an exciting, like RG3 was when he first arrived at Baylor. Give me and that's one of the things that concerns you. Now, can they grow up in the offseason? Well, they didn't in the last one. So what makes you think they're going to do that in this one? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't give you one other than the secondary.
We'll ask Phil that in the next segment.
I don't think there is an area right now that you point to, and the way that you would point to the secondary. But like I just got done saying, there's no guarantee that thing's even going to be in place by the end of December because of the transfer portal. Now, I'm not suggesting those guys are automatically leaving. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together in reality in the world of college football and saying if they do have pretty good players and they're struggling to even make bowl games, then inevitably somebody who needs a corner or a safety or something is going to go look at these guys at Baylor who have 3 years of eligibility left and go, hey, what are you looking for? And probably some teams in conference who have played Baylor and go you know what, or watch the tape and go, they're not very good, but that Tevin Williams guy's got, something he'd be good for, so I don't know. I guess the secondary would be that, but then again, there's nothing, that's going to prevent that from breaking apart if you're not careful and you don't start, changing what's going on here. And that's the scary part is they're running out of time to do that. And there's no real signs that they are going to be able to do that.
Yeah, because it's what have you done, not for me lately, what have you done for me today, tomorrow, tonight? And they know, and Dave Aranda, at least he handled the question. Didn't mean everyone has to like it. I've noticed that no matter what he says, even if it makes sense, it doesn't because of just everyone's angry. Mack Rhodes will be a part of the show tomorrow, and there's a lot more to get to than football, but that will be number one, what we discuss again. When we come back, Phil Bennett, this is 365 Sports. 2023 Ram Lone Star Crew Cabs, 0% for 72 months. $8,000 off. There's a limited supply, so hurry and don't wait for that. Also, the 2023 Ram 2500 heavy duties now have $4,000 off in total values on these hard-to-find workhorses. 2023 cab and chassis, $4,500. The 2023 cab and chassis, $4,500 in stock for the man or the woman that wants to pull something heavy in the back. Also, pre-owned deals including the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, 18,000 miles will get you there, not only in luxury but also at warp speed. The 2022 Mercedes E350 E-Class, under 20,000 miles. 2 pre-owned Jeep Wagoneers. 2019 Volvo XC40 with 47,000 miles. These are just some of what they have on the lot. Brand new vehicles, pre-owned vehicles. Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager, tell AJ or ask for him. He's the one that helped me with my purchase of a car back in the summer of 2020. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340, and east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Phil Bennett will join us here momentarily. Craig, real quickly on the ACC schedule and how it affects SMU.
Yeah, the ACC 2024 through 2030 schedule is out, and we had Rhett Lashley, Mustangs head coach, on earlier, and we asked him, or Paul asked him as an FSU alum, whether or not the Noles would be coming to town anytime soon, and he kind of winked. Well, Florida State will be heading to Dallas next season. They will be a part of the groups that will be playing the Mustangs along with Boston College, Cal, and Pitt, and then SMU will travel to Duke, Louisville, Stanford, and Virginia. So just a little taste. I know we can dive further into that later, but FSU will be going to Dallas, Paul. Mustangs and Seminoles.
God almighty, that's too close to me.
So we'll be doing a show.
Be doing a show that Friday, I guess, on the hilltop.
We are joined by a longtime college football coach, and Phil Bennett joins us every Mondays with Truth Serum on 365 Sports. I'm going to start with a couple of different things. I want to start with this. Did you hear about Pat Narduzzi and kind of basically calling out the lack of talent that didn't replace what they had before?
I did, and I'm pretty familiar with that situation. Some of my former players called me as soon as it happened. And, I'm going to tell you something, Smokey. I think that obviously he prefaced it by saying it was his fault. He had to do a better job. But I think as a coach, you've really got to be careful. You can't forget who are the players and who are the coaches. We are responsible as coaches. What happens, you're either coaching or allowing to happen. And I hated that. I hated it for the players. And in today's world, you might tell them privately, hey, we didn't play, But to come out at a news conference and say I didn't replace my team with players as good as less, that's concerning.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to be like get off my lawn, but how about some of the players reacting and getting angry, not so much at Pat Narduzzi, but at themselves because they need to play better?
Well, that's another part of it. I think that, and I had a guy that's very close to the situation sort of bring that up. One in particular that he talked about that got on Twitter and he just hadn't performed to the expectations. Now, with that said, I think there's always a variation, but I would rather confront a player personally and never go through a third party. And now I didn't, once I read it, and I saw what he said, I didn't feel as bad about it, but I still thought it could have been left out.
Well, I think the bigger issue is now he has to spend time doing it because you've got, 85 scholarship players in the team that could have taken it 85 different ways. So now it's something that a fire he has to put out that he didn't have to before, right?
Exactly. I love Bill Snyder. He had a couple of sayings, and it was always, he said, silence has never been misquoted. And you might think that, but you don't say it. And I know Pat. I've known him since he was a young coach. I'm not a great fan of his because I think he is a self-promoter, has been, and I don't think it was as bad as it was made out to be.
As bad as it made out to be, Coach, let's go to another topic. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. You've heard all about it, as has everybody who follows along with college football. There's a lot of allegations. There's a lot to sort through, and obviously there's going to be investigations as well. Based on what you know, how would you break it down from a coach's point of view, and what are your thoughts on what you've heard, read, or seen?
Well, I do know this. This is one thing I do know. I know the people involved. I know that they're trying. Some coaches spend more time trying to do bull like that instead of getting their players in position to play. It's gone on forever. And he got a guy that had a history of it. And I think it's the thing we always talk about. It's lack of integrity. And he can say he didn't know. I believe he knew. I know everybody there. I watched the tape. I watched them in the Ohio State game. He's saying, hey, it's pass. And that's a big thing. And they had the signals. And if they're paying somebody to go watch, that's an infraction. And it's got to come down. And with what's going on there, I would think a two-time hit like that, it could cost them a chance at the national championship. The integrity of the game is at stake. Now, if you're just reading signals and you're trying to get them, that's different. I've worked for guys that they like to watch the TV copy and say, all right, what signal's this? What's that? I never had time for it. Never. I was too involved in the strategy of the game. And I think it's something that really does take away from the process.
The whole I wouldn't, and I know, look, coaches and players and what goes on off the field and off the field issues notwithstanding, because, they leave the facility and you don't know. But when he's got a coach that got arrested for computer crimes a year ago, which is hacking, and that we don't even know what that is yet, and then another coach on staff that is stealing signals, and he doesn't know what his own coaches are doing, that seems to be a stretch of look, I know everything that goes on in my program as long as it's good, but the bad stuff I don't.
There's issues there. I mean, let's be honest. What's happened, and you mentioned that, his offensive coordinator is being investigated by the FBI. The University of Michigan, not the athletic department, fired him over a breach with computer. We still don't know what it is. We had the situation that everybody says that he was recruiting and broke the rules, and he has denied it and been, the NCAA, he's told him he wouldn't serve, and finally did serve some time, but he's never acknowledged that he did it. So there's some issues there. And it just, I don't think it's going to go away, especially with the situation back to back to back.
Phil, is Baylor's issue, it's it's like a spider web of issues, but is it as simple as they can't run the ball and they can't stop the run? Is there anything more deadly than that?
No. And I have watched with great intent. They're a little bit like Texas A&M. We're probably overrated to begin the season. I see no playmakers on either side of the ball. No people, that can do the things it takes to do to win consistently. And I'm just being honest with that. I mean, I see plays that are open, and then they're close. Defensively, they're a mess. I think Iowa State average, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, almost 9 yards a carry.
Yeah.
They don't defend formation. They're outnumbered. And you talk about playing hard. It's hard to play hard when you give away angles and you give away numbers. That game, to me, of all the games this year, maybe to me it was the hardest game to watch, because I thought after the Cincinnati game we were going to progress, and we just weren't able to do anything on either side of the ball.
Yeah, they had absolutely just gashed them as far as yards per. And they're also their third down. They converted basically 9 of 15 third downs. It looked like, and I hate to say it, no, I don't. It's true. They looked like they were men among boys. Iowa State like grown men, and Baylor looked like they weren't.
Well, they picked and choose, and let's be honest. It's not like Iowa State was doing anything strategically better. They were just executing.
Yep.
I looked at one time. I looked at our linebackers. They were under split flow, and we had a linebacker scraping with the ball inside. Back took it, cut back 12, 14 yards. And it comes to a point, if you're looking at that tape, what are we coaching? I have concerns. I really love the coordinator. I'm just not sure. There's a saying in this business, and I'm not saying it, but I just feel you can't put stripes on a private. And I see things that coaching matters. What you do to your kids, where you put them, how you play them, it matters. And they're struggling with that right now.
So what do you do? Matthew Pallage is a guy that was a fast rising star. He knows what he's doing, but there's not a lot of skins on the wall. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I look at North Texas. I look at these guys. They don't have a guy that's ever called a defense. First year guys. Experience is not something you just. It's something. It's hard to replace, and it's hard to get. Situational like the other game, other day, there were situations in that game we could have got off the field. But I just don't see a continuity of experience. And, I know Dave has done a great job, but being a head coach sometimes, and I was guilty of this at SMU. At times, I became more of a nuisance to the defense than a positive because I wasn't in there all the time. I just don't think right now that we're challenging an offense. You know, we didn't. I mean, I would have been trying to do one thing they were not going to do. I wouldn't have let them run the ball. Anything, I would have done more stuff to try to stop it. And I just didn't see that. A guy told me this, and it was a guy that I respect greatly. He said they're very basic. And I think that's pretty much the truth. And when an offense sees and knows every time how you're lining up, they can, pinpoint you.
Coach, this applies to Baylor, but just in general as well, I'm curious. When you have a team that misses a lot of tackles, I know that is probably some of their angles and their positioning, and you can go further into that. But what do you do to go about correcting that? And I know somewhere, hey, there's young guys too, and they're learning along the way. But just in general, if a team is bad at tackling, how do you, as the coach, go about trying to fix that? And how long of a process is that?
Craig, what I said earlier, and I think you alluded to it, 99% of missed tackles is when you're out of position. Okay. Your body control, you're out of control. And when you're not at the right angle and you're having to take improper angles to the ball and you're not lined up right, the whole thing, we talk about you want to stop the run from inside out. You want the ball to go east and west so your pursuit can run it down. We're not able to do that right now. Everybody that's running the ball on us is running it north and south. And when you're out of position and you're out of control, you're missing tackles. And that's the thing I always talk about. When I would look at a run, if it was over 5 yards, 4 yards, I'd say, okay, let's pinpoint why this happened. Was it the way we lined up? Was it our technique? Or were we there and just missed the tackle? And was it fundamental? So that's how you evaluate a play. Did we have the right numbers? Were we lined up right? Did we get what we wanted? And then it comes to the fact, maybe sometimes we miss the tackles, we're out of control. That becomes a fundamental issue. I think we play out of control because we're struggling to get lined up right.
Is that also because they have no confidence in what they're doing?
I wouldn't say confidence. I don't think right now we feel, and this is just my feeling. I think that what we're doing, we're not confident in what we're calling. We're not challenging a offense right now. I've said this many times. People talk about, somebody mentioned third down. Well, you know what? Let's go back to the front. Let's be good on first down, because if you're good on first down, you create long second yardage and long third yardage. I mean, the first two downs are crucial, and the odds of you converting a 3rd and 7 versus a 3rd and 3 are a hell of a lot different. So one of the things I'm sitting there thinking, watching the game on first down, they're getting 2nd and 2, 2nd and 1, 2nd and 4. Let's do something on first down, a run coverage, load the box, put a number, see if they'll throw on first down. And I would like to see, maybe y'all could look it up, how many passes Iowa State threw on first down. Our box was never full enough that they felt they had to throw the ball on first down. It looks like to me. Now, I'm not saying I'm totally right, but it sure looks that way.
You know what I saw? If it was 2nd and 7 or 2nd and long, they got 6. If it was 3rd and 15 or 2nd and 15, they got 12. It was not even what they had to convert on 3rd down. It was what they had to convert on 2nd down, no matter the distance, at least to put them in position where it was very favorable.
Well, and that's what people do. It's called staying on time. If you're able to stay on time with a count, it's a hell of a lot easier to call offensive plays than it is trying to defend it.
Phil, in the Big 12 this week, we've got some doozies, some really big, important games. Which one in particular would you be more excited for? Kansas State at Texas or the last Bedlam?
You know, of course, I've got a soft spot in my heart for K-State.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that game. They're hot right now. And if you're going to beat them, Texas is going to have trouble stopping them. And I think that with Malik being this first big game, that's gonna be an interesting game. The Bedlam game, I can't tell you how many times I've watched that game with Oklahoma State being the better team, but couldn't beat them. Wouldn't you agree with that, Smoak?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I still remember back in the 80s where they dominate the game when they had Barry Sanders and they missed a field goal right at the end, right there to win the game. And so now I think because this was probably the last Bedlam for a while, it could be different. Now I will say this: they have really, you have to give Mike credit. What they have done up there after the loss to South Alabama has been nothing short of pretty amazing. Their running game, their quarterback, they're a different football team. Crazy good.
Coach, do you have any familiarity with Lance Leipold or his staff? And I ask just because I'm curious. That was obviously a massive win for that program. They're now bowl eligible again, but beating Oklahoma in the last meeting for a while. Your thoughts on the Jayhawks and the turnaround over these last couple of years?
Well, I think, number one, I think the Jayhawks' new athletic director, when they hired him, he told them, he said, we're going to be good in football. And I think hiring Lance and his staff, I am familiar with him for one guy that y'all know well, Pete Fredenberg.
Yep.
When they used to play each other when Lance was at, I believe it was Wisconsin Whitewater. And I remember Pete used to call me and said, man, this guy, he does a great job. And then I followed Lance when he went to Buffalo because, of course, we had played Buffalo when I was at Baylor, and he has done an outstanding job. And what people don't understand is that all of his staff, they've been together a long time, and they are really well coached on both sides of the ball. And the thing I was saying they didn't understand, they're playing with a backup quarterback. This kid was at North Texas, and really left at North Texas because they didn't feel like he would ever flourish, the guys to be, and he has gone to Kansas, and the job they have done with him, coaching him, he's very athletic, he's become a better than average passer, and they are doing as good a coaching job as anybody in the country.
By the way, Joe in the chat room, who's been listening to us, we've known him forever. Can we bring you back as far as come back and analyze what's going on with the Baylor football program? And that's not a shot at Matthew Pallage. I know what you mentioned about him. Okay, I have a question. Garrett, put the picture up. This was the Iowa State coaches booth. This is late in the game where the window was smashed. Now, Iowa State, I just checked on this to make sure because there were people thinking, okay, did somebody throw something at the press box window where the coaches are? A coach got excited, kind of popped the window. Everything's fine. They'll take care of it. It is smashed, shattered. How close did you ever come to punching your fist inside of a press box window?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. When I was at A&M, we played Penn State. I was in the press box, and we actually, Curtis Dickey was our running back, and Curtis Dickey went like 60 yards in Penn State. And they had Matt Millen, Bruce Clark, Suey, and they were supposed to beat us. And when Curtis went the distance, I threw my hands up, and I didn't bust the window, but I busted one of those gas lights, over that go over, and it's right before halftime. It's a true story. And out of Beaver Stadium is the campus hospital. At halftime, I didn't go to the locker room. I went to the hospital, and I got the sliver of glass. My index finger is still numb because I cut a tendon in it. I had it fixed, and I was back for the second half. How about that?
Well,
That's a gamer.
hey, look, the picture we have of him, that's at North Texas, but there's a reason Phil went down to the sideline after that, I'm betting.
Yeah. Yeah, and then,
I remember this. Our coach was sitting there and goes, "Where's Bennett? Where's Bennett?" They said he's at. I mean, it's crazy though. You walk out of Beaver Stadium, and the Quack Shack is right there. and they took me in there, got it fixed, and I was back for the second half. I think I had 8 stitches.
did you ever have anyone ask you if you could sell off or people bid on that very handsome gold jersey you wore on the sidelines during Baylor games?
I have never – listen to me. I never thought anything. We just did it. They said, hey, it's easy to see. It's a great color. And I don't even know who started. I think it might have been it was our equipment guy. And I can't tell you how many people have saw. I went to Dan Pastorini's celebrity golf tournament day, and a guy that played, Paul Stewart, that played at Baylor, stopped me. He goes, my kids and I we tracked you down at the Holiday Bowl when y'all were going to games, and my kids were so disappointed because you didn't have your gold shirt on yet. Or yellow shirt, whatever it is. I just, it became funny. It really did.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I used to have people all the time talk about that color and what you did. Thank you very much. Phil Bennett, former Baylor and longtime college football coach. We appreciate you always, Coach. Thanks for your time. Phil Bennett with us on Mondays at 5 o'clock. That gold shirt, he cut his hand on one of those lights on the top. This one here, put that up if you don't have it still, Garrett. Do you still have it? This was not like an angry or intentional.
It was joyous.
It was just joyous from the Iowa State staff. I guess you lost it. They had stopped Baylor on a 4th down, even though for the most part they were in control of the game. That was when Dawson Pendergrass, in one of the most vanilla plays you could imagine on 4th and 3, and was stopped after about a yard, and they celebrated, and the window came out.
4th and 3. Let's just run right up the middle against this defense that's been stopping us on the run all day long.
I was actually off left guard.
I'm just kidding you. Left guard is still in the middle.
It was not.
Yeah.
It was not.
I mean,
it was not. No.
I get having confidence in the young runner because he was your only guy getting positive yardage in the running game, really. But 4th and 3. You just think you're going to bully Iowa State's defense, and I don't. That to me, and he didn't even get an inch. That's the thing is he went, bam, and just got stopped immediately like he had ran into a wall. But I was thankful about the window that I actually, when I first saw that, I thought it was a Baylor coach that had done that, and I was like, oh, God, here we go. There's going to be a whole thing about, everything's going bad already, but now coaches are breaking windows in the booth, and then I learned it was Iowa State, and I was like, okay, well, thank God.
I saw, of course, there's some people when you get into a little bit of it. There's the picture of because Palacios is the one that was called in to look at the booth because it was after the game. So I checked with Brett Ingram at Baylor. They did, as far as admit to the breaking the glass. They've been great about it. An assistant coach celebrating the 4th down stop and got a little bit overexcited, and Iowa State will take care of the bill or what, and we move on. It was a hell of a win for Iowa State. Matt Campbell and Mike Gundy, what they've done, where they were 4 weeks ago, and what both of them have done is pretty damn impressive.
We need to find out who their glass guy is for the next time that the lawnmowers fire a rock through our window here.
Which is thick,
we have to wait for 4 months.
When we come back, we're not done. We have yet Jeff Traylor, UTSA football coach, is next, and this is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Garrett was a little bit under the weather. It sounds like he's finally coming out of it after a couple weeks of having a bit of a sinus infection. He calls me before the postgame show a couple of weeks ago and says, hey, can I, you're the whiskey connoisseur. Can I get some whiskey from you? I want to make a hot toddy. I said, no problem. I brought him some from my collection, which most of it comes from Riverbend Liquor and Wine because they have the best selection of bourbons, whiskeys, whatever. But if it's local craft bourbon and Texas bourbon, Riverbend Liquor and Wine is the place to go. Look, they've got 2 locations now. One is downtown. That's the newer location. And the original location at Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind Behind the Bank. They're the ones that have, my gosh, so many different local Texas craft bourbons. Wonderful selection. I love going there. Speedy drive-through window, great customer service. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, now with 2 locations to serve you.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, get 2.9% for 72 months on new 2023 1500 Lone Star and Laramie 4x4 crew cabs, or $11,000 off MSRP on Lone Stars and $12,500 off MSRP on Laramies.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person. You can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. And we're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40-pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at UnitePrivateNetworks.com.
Great friend of the show, UTSA football coach Jeff Traylor, with us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Thank you very much. Has this been, obviously you've turned the corner, but has this been a really, really difficult season with all, had a couple of early losses, a frustrating loss early, and then, Frank Harris wasn't around. How hard has this been for you?
Yeah, well, it's not hard on me personally. I just hated that everybody had got to see how good of a team I had. We just never got to put them out there. And, we went through all those issues with Frank the entire year, and we finally get him kind of going. Against Houston, he struggled. He had 3 picks, but you could see him running around. He looked like his old self again. And then Texas State, we're playing really well. Now he gets turf toe. So he's dealing with a knee, an ankle, a shoulder, and now you add turf toe on top of it. And we pull out a tweaker against Texas State with him hobbled up. Then we get beat by Army, a team we thought we were clearly better than, and they played their tails off. I'm not taking anything away from them, but we didn't play very well without him. And we also lost our offensive tackle in the Texas State game, which was a huge loss for us, and our third-round receiver hasn't been able to play the entire year. So when you lose your best quarterback, who's your best player, your best wide receiver other than Cephas, and then your best offensive tackle, it put us back a little bit. And we didn't play real well, to be honest with you, but we got Frank back, and we got some defensive players back. We still don't have our offensive tackle back. We're not going to get our wide receiver back, but we've just kind of learned to play a different way right now. We've gotten better each week, and we're really glad to be 4-0 and went to the month of October undefeated.
Well, Coach, it looked like Frank had, especially, well, at least through the air last week, his groove back altogether. What does that do for the rest of the team to allow them to – you never take deep breaths during the season, but at least step back and know that you're not going to have to get as creative?
Well, first I want to say this. His being gone was not why we lost the Army game. Our offense was very productive that night. We just couldn't stop them. We could not get them off the field. They went for it on fourth down every time. To credit to Jeff Monken, they did a fantastic job. They played an almost perfect game. And then you go to Tennessee. I don't think it would have mattered who the quarterback was that day. Our hands were full up there now, man. That was a tough one. So I don't want to put it on my backup quarterback. So, Owen McCallum played his tail off against Tennessee, went 18 out of 20, and Eddie Lee played very well against Army. But there's no difference to your point. There's no question to your point. When Zero rolls out there, it's just he gives us all the confidence. He's just done it so many times. He's been my starting quarterback now for 4 years. You just can't replace that type of leadership, the championships that he's won, the games that he's won, the comebacks that he's had. And you know how special he is. Y'all have interviewed him. The kid's just unique.
Coach, what has life been like in a new conference? I mean, I know it's football at the end of the day, and, you have respect for where you were, but anything just notable that sticks out about life in the American thus far?
Yeah, just the fan base of Temple, the fan base of East Carolina, just their structure, how many staff members they have, their budget. We're behind over here. We're growing. We kind of have Conference USA figured out. And now we moved into a league where we're 11th out of 14 as far as funding and where we need to be in competition there. So we got a ways to go. And I keep telling everybody, we're not going to keep winning all those games by doing more with less. At some point, I want to do less with more in my life, not more with less.
Right. Yep.
Is the vote about the extra, whatever that is, money that students would pay, a student fee that didn't pass, is that a sore spot with you?
No, I understand. The kids have a point of view too now. We live in America. It's the greatest country in the world. You get to vote, right? And they express their vote. And I'm just grateful that I live in a country that gets to do that. Mm-hmm. And obviously we've got work to do. And nobody wants to hear my country stories, but we were at Gilmer. We lost 2 big bonds to that new high school. It was very frustrating. I remember Rick Aldridge, my superintendent, was crushed. And we just got the stakeholders together in the room. We kept working. We kept negotiating. And we ended up getting one of the nicest high schools in the country. So that's just a small example of us not getting it done the first time. And I've said this before. You can never mistake, a comma for a period. This is a pause. This is not a stop. And we just got to figure it out. And as long as I've been here, David, somebody in our city has stepped up. There's always been a booster to get it done. But like this week, we're going to be outdoors in the elements. Our indoor is not completed. It has not started. And North Texas is going to be in their indoor. And that's a tremendous advantage when you're in this month. We all know that November is the month of remembering. That's where the best games, the biggest games are. And we'll be out there in the cold. Now, my kids will be fine. It'll be 37, 35 degrees up there in the morning. We've got afternoon classes, so we go early. But us old coaches now, we'll be freezing to death out there. I might have to run around a ton, or I'll have to not run all down my chin tomorrow.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's cold out there.
God, it is cold. You're right. Frigid, nasty, wet.
Coach, you mentioned that someone in your city has always stepped up. How much does that make UTSA a much more attractive job than many people outside would understand because of the sense of community that exists in that particular city that is kind of unique, especially when it comes to colleges and cities of that size of San Antonio?
Well, our first year we were in a facility that was worse than almost any high school I've ever recruited or coached at in my life. And now we're in one of the nicest facilities in the country. It's a $45 million project. We need about $10 million for the indoor or the covered facility to get done. So, I mean, like in the beginning, it was hundreds of dollars, then it was thousands of dollars, then it became millions. And just recently, we've had a booster that, probably pays them $1 million a year. And as long as I'm coaching here, that was a life that we had no recruiting. We were in trouble recruiting. We were way behind everybody in recruiting. But he stepped up, and there's so many families. If I started naming all of them, we'd be here a long time. And there's some more coming. I've got some commitments that have not been announced yet. from some great families here in the San Antonio area. And what I've kind of learned, I've kind of grown too. Like, there's no way I'm going to make the Longhorn fans stop liking the Longhorns or the Baylor Bears or the Aggies. I'm trying to use the analogy like my children. I love all my kids, right? But there's enough love for all three of them. So I'm just trying to get the Baylor Bear fans that live in San Antonio to help us. I'm trying to get the Texas Longhorn fans that live in San Antonio to help us. The Aggies that live in San Antonio, we're still San Antonio's team. Whether they're a Longhorn alum or an Aggie alum or a Baylor Bear alum, we're still San Antonio's team. So that approach has helped. I'm at least getting a little bit of love from some of those alums of those other schools.
Coach, I know you played, at BYU, you played at Texas, but you mentioned that Tennessee game earlier, and it was a tough one for you guys, but were there some pretty wide eyes walking into that place? I've never been, but it's always a place I've wanted to go. I was just curious about your experience and just, going from your usual Saturdays to that monstrosity, and I mean that in a good way. What was that like?
Well, no, we were not big-eyed. Tennessee's D-line big-eyed us, and their running back big-eyed us. But we played in Alamo Dome with 50,000 people. There's nowhere louder in the country. When you go up to Austin and University of Texas, there's not a place louder in the country. And it used to not be that way when I went to Austin. But when you go up there now, we played them last year. It was an incredible environment. And Tennessee was like that. So our kids are not big-eyed. We just got our tail whipped by a better football team that day.
Jeff, you're not used to losing much at all from the time you took over as a head coach at Gilmer and what you've done already at UTSA. What do you like after a loss on the weekend?
I hate to say this, David. I very rarely remember the win. It's always the losses.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it. I'm embarrassed by it, but I got an article right here. It's laminated. This is from like 1993. Fear of failure motivates Parcells. And I've got a quote by Norv Turner here. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves these are the jobs we've always dreamed of. It's the losing that just drives me insane. I can handle it if my team plays well and we go down. Very rarely does that happen. It's probably something self-inflicted, which means I didn't do a very good job of coaching during the week. And it kills me to let my kids down. And when I don't have them prepared and it's not a happy locker room, I just don't do very well, David. So I wish I could tell you I was motivated by the winning and the smiles and the joy, which I know that's some of it, but it's the failure that just eats me up, brother.
Does that keep you up at night?
It does, win or lose. Man, I don't sleep a wink after a game. That adrenaline rolls through me the entire night, and I sleep like a baby on Friday night. I've emptied the tank now. I've exhausted everything I can, so I'm ready and prepared. But on Saturday night, win or lose, I am wide awake. Just cannot sleep at all. Adrenaline just rolling through me.
I don't know this, but is the Liberty ILO game at Lobo Stadium is still the one that bothers you the most, or is there another one?
Yeah, Houston jumped up over that one. Triple overtime loss.
Oh, yeah.
That one gutted me. I'd say Army moved into number 2, Liberty ILO 3, and Canton number 4 if I had to list them.
Oh, my God. I happened to be at both of them. That's not good. I shouldn't have brought them up.
Thanks, David. You're the best. We've been friends for a really long time. I got a couple of stories I'm going to tell on you on all these people listening to things, and you weren't always perfect, my brother.
Hey, go ahead now. I mean, my God.
Coach, I'll tell you.
He used to talk so much smack about me on Smoak. He had a whole website, and people just crushed me every week. He was terrible. I know he's my friend.
I don't think I ever did. It was the message board, but it wasn't my name.
You allowed them, the media, to express their displeasure for me and my family. It's all your fault when I was 30, David. I'm 50 now, so I understand it now.
I was preparing you for big-time college football message boards.
You and Danny Long both. I'd be so mad, and Danny'd be like, Jeff Davis the best guy in the world. I'm like, there's no way, Coach. There's no way.
Oh, my goodness. You are so comfortable there, and if you do get the indoor done and you can get some of this other stuff done, you have the long-term contract. Is that kind of the to-do list other than making sure you win games?
We got to get our budget up. We got to get a recruiting staff. I've got to get my coaches paid better. We've got to get our NIL money up. There's a list when you're building a program. There's a long list of things. But we chipped away every single year. Where we've come in 4 years has been amazing. And, that's just kind of who I am. Gilmer, the only reason I probably got that job is nobody else wanted it in 2000. And 15 years later, we did okay. I hope when we're done with this one, David, everybody can look back one day and go, he left that place a whole lot better than what it was when he got there. I love the city, and I love the support, and really do. I got the best kids in the country.
Coach, I was curious about this. I should have asked some other head coaches that we've talked about this, but the new clock rules, what have you made of those now that we're deep into the season? Has there been a noticeable change on your end?
No, I hadn't noticed anything about it. Okay. I mean, we just snapping that thing as fast as we can when we need to, and we're snapping as slow as we can when we don't. Whatever that clock says, we're gonna adjust, improvise, and overcome. So I got a lot of other things I'm worrying about those officials other than that clock, I can promise you.
Gotcha.
What is it like, and would you love to have the headset conversation, a reality show one day?
Yeah, I don't want to just be to the quarterback because I don't want to have to huddle, and I don't want to have to signal everything to my receivers. So I'd like to get it where we could get, to all of our receivers and our quarterback, just so we could play fast. That's why fans like watching college football. And my son coaches the NFL. It bores me to tears. I want to go, man. I want to go fast and watch some ball and some athletes spread out and watch the athletes in space. So, but it's ridiculous. We've got all these coaches over there that, who's the live signaler? You got 3 signalers going at one time. You got pictures of David Smoak on signs up there. You got pictures of, whoever the heck your favorite person is. It's just silly and a lot of wasted money and a lot of wasted time, honestly. So I'd love to change it, but I'd like for some way to make it incorporated so the college football game can still look like the college football game and not look like the pro game.
All right, last question for me. When you're in 60,000 and that place is rolling, or you're at where you are in Tennessee, or you've been at UT, do you ever stop for at least a second before the game or even during a break during the game, even though it's crazy, and just take it all in of what you're doing?
Brother, I did that when I was 31, and my Buckeyes, who were a 28-point underdog, were playing the number 3 ranked Blaywater Bears in Gilmer Buckeye Stadium. I've always said I'm the luckiest guy in the freaking world. They paid me to coach football and be around the freaking greatest athletes that are the greatest people and get to coach with assistant coaches. They're the best. There's not a better job in the world. I was made to do it. So I pinch myself every day, David, from Gilmer to Jacksonville to Big Sandy to right now in San Antonio, Texas. No doubt I pinch myself.
Well, we appreciate you. You know that, despite the fact that you were a target on the message boards. I was just preparing you for life like you did your kids, right? I appreciate you, man.
You did a great job. I appreciate you. You've been a dear friend forever, Brother David. Y'all take care. God bless and bears up.
Good luck. It's Jeff Traylor, UTSA in North Texas, coming up on Saturday up in Denton. Eric Morris will join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock here on 365 Sports.
Yeah, so after all that hand-wringing, has anybody thought about the clock rules at all this season, really?
No, I
don't think so.
I don't like to say I told you so, but I believe it told you so. No one was going to know.
Paxton brought it up the very first weekend. He thought that there would not be comebacks, and this is nothing against him. A lot of others did as well. We've seen Baylor come back from 28 down. We've seen what else has happened with a lot of the stuff, and I don't know if I've noticed maybe a 5-minute difference in the overall length of a game.
Look, we sat at there's Baylor games we've been through that have 3-minute commercial breaks no matter what the scenario is, and they're putting them in there. Yep. So that was never the problem. You're never going to notice in the games. The reason you do it in the games is it just makes more sense now. Like things have changed. The offenses moves, everything moves faster, so you're never going to notice.
Yeah, it dawned on me we were talking to him. It was kind of out of nowhere, but I was just curious because I remember that being such a thing for about a week there prior to the season, and it's been not a thing at all whatsoever as we've been watching these games, maybe somewhere in some corners, but I've not noticed it at all. If you had not said anything about it and I just hadn't read it, I would have no idea that anything was different.
Yeah, I would have been like, is the clock's running.
I made a comment. I'll tell you what hasn't changed, and it needs to. And I made a comment on Twitter, and I do this about 3 times a year, that a play is run. There's a play. The offense and defenses run off the field. They're about to snap. There's been a delay of about 45 seconds to a minute, and all of a sudden, here comes the replay guy coming in off the sideline to a replay. And it's like almost inevitably 70 yards away from where the play is being called. I made that comment on Twitter, and most everybody said they agreed. But I did have someone reach out to me, and he's going to talk to me about really the process, which seemed like to me would be simple. Put the play up in the front, on the screen, and I wish that would speed up a little bit more. And I don't know if that's just a Big 12 thing or not.
All right, before we go, because we got to go.
Yes,
but,
we do.
There is a BYU note we need to get to.
Garrett,
SMU,
you couldn't get that done, could you? That on the Twitter. Okay, go ahead, Craig. All right.
SMU has their new schedule for next year in the ACC. We talked about that a bit earlier, just in passing, and maybe we can unpack the ACC schedule a little bit more tomorrow. But they will be hosting Florida State, for example, as new members of that conference. But because of the changes to the schedules, and particularly Utah now becoming a member of the Big 12, that takes away a game for BYU, right? Or let me see here. How did that come about? I'm trying to think of what changed there. BYU had Utah on the schedule for next year, so that's now a conference game.
Right.
So BYU needed a game, and then I guess SMU needed a game, and so BYU will play SMU in an upcoming series starting next year. They will play 24 and 27, BYU versus SMU. The 2024 game next year will be in Dallas, and the 2027 game will be in Provo. So there you go. BYU and SMU now on the docket for next season.
And Rhett Lashley said they'll have 7 home games. Now, Garrett, the windows, one more time. I've got an update. Here is the window, and I get to mention Iowa State's taking care of this, and it was an excitement, and it happened. And then Joe Radcliffe is there because he does a lot of security around McLean Stadium. Do you have that one, Garrett? I sent it to you.
Only one you sent me.
Okay. That's
Here,
okay.
I'll get it to you, Garrett. You can show it after the top 5.
All right, we'll come back with the top 5. That's what it was like Saturday evening. We'll show you what they've done, at least for now. We have to update you on the most important details of college football.
Hold on, are we keeping it here?
Yeah, just play the
open. Okay. All right.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 Monday thoughts. Number 5, North Carolina still has a ways to go. I thought that maybe the Virginia loss was a fluke, but Georgia Tech, who's better than Virginia, and honestly, if you're in the ACC and you want to, change the stars of your program, hire a guy named Brent Key and Brent Pry, both doing well at their programs. But Haynes King had a career night, and North Carolina, the last couple weeks, no defense to speak of, and they are, as it stands right now, because they won't get a shot at either FSU or Louisville, especially Louisville, who has a loss. They won't get a shot at either of those guys. They have to hope for a lot of things to happen if they want to play in the ACC title game again. And that was a little bit surprising to me because I thought that especially, and now I don't know how long he's going to be out because he took that hit at the end of the game that kind of ended the game, that Tez Walker would change that team completely. But they've lost 2 in a row, and Mac Brown is left scratching his head as to where things went awry.
Yeah, apparently he's doing okay, Tez Walker, but I don't know that there's any report on like what he's facing moving forward as far as, missing a game or anything like that. But, in terms of having to go to the hospital, he's doing okay. So that's
I thought he was released,
good to hear. Things are going good on the health front, but I'm saying I don't know how much time he's missing or if he's going to miss any time or whatever, but everything else seems to be fine. It's a tough deal. I mean, it's kind of Mac Brown too, though, right? I mean, he loses games that you don't expect to lose, and that was certainly the case a couple weeks back. And now you follow it up with another one, and your dreams are starting to get dashed in a major way right here at the end. And just a shame when you've got it set up the way you do with your quarterback, and feeling like this is going to be a pretty big year, and we'll see how they close. But they've certainly gotten derailed here in the past couple of games.
Number 4. Mike Gundy's demise was prematurely reported. He's figured it out. And I think that, of course, we talked about it with Dave Hunziker earlier, but, they figured out what they had, and they adjusted. I do think, though, had they messed around with the 3 quarterbacks any longer, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But he figured out when to go and just stick with Alan Bowman when he did. And, of course, Ollie Gordon's explosion has certainly helped this. But they figured out who they were. And credit to Mike Gundy for doing that, because after South Alabama, that felt like it was about to be a lost season.
Yeah, it did. And South Alabama's a good team. I mean, to their credit, they still shouldn't be beating Oklahoma State the way that they did. It wasn't even just that you lost; it's how you lost. But,
and at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the factors of how you lost. And, that was a brutal defeat. And for them to now go on this run that they've been on with Ollie Gordon leading the way, it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I'm sure just a brilliant time for Oklahoma State fans who – at the beginning of the year thought that, a lot of hope was lost, but now here you are, and Bedlam's as big as it possibly could be, and much bigger than you probably thought it would ever be after the South Alabama game. It was always going to be big regardless, but now it has like stakes beyond just the rivalry and it's the last time and all of those types of things. It was going to have that regardless, but now it has actual stakes as well. And so, yeah, Mike Gundy deserves a lot of credit for figuring things out, but I mean, that you would hope that a guy who's been around as long as he has can figure those things out, and that he hadn't lost his touch, and certainly he has not lost his touch. They just needed to make some changes, and those changes have been for the better.
Number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the reason Ohio State is undefeated. That in the defense. But the difference in the last couple of games against Penn State and Wisconsin was 18. They Ekuba's been out. So that they haven't had all their playmakers. Travian Henderson certainly, I think, made a difference against Wisconsin as well. But if you want to go by why Ohio State can keep winning these narrow games, yes, it's their defense. But if they did not have this guy, they'd have lost a couple of those because they're just not there on the rest of their offense yet. But he is so freaking good. He's the difference in all of these.
Yeah, he's special. I mean, we're watching him on Sundays here pretty soon, and he's kept them afloat when they don't have nearly as many options as they would previously have. There's something what was it, the last couple of years, the receiving core alone was, as star-studded as you could possibly get and deep, and that's just not the case for them right now. Got a lot of young talent and just, kind of finding their way, but, he's a bona fide superstar, and he's everything you want in a star wide receiver, and he is keeping them above water in some cases, as that defense is as well. So yeah, he's unbelievable.
Number 2, Oregon is out for blood. They are absolutely just out for blood. The way that they demolished Utah like that. Dan Lanning has got something going there. Craig, you mentioned it earlier on the show. I know, and I agree with you. I know that Washington won that game. Oregon was in position to maybe even run away with it if their fourth down calls work out. I think Oregon is probably better top to bottom than Washington, but they just weren't on that day. And they're a team that whoever you are rest of the season, whether it's in the Pac-12 or in the potential college football playoff if they made it there, I don't care if it's Michigan or Georgia, I don't want to play Oregon.
Yeah, no, I think that they are really playing a great brand of football at the moment, and that was impressive to see them dismantle Utah the way that they did. I mean, it didn't start off that way. You thought, dang, is Utah going to hang in this game too? But I just felt like Oregon just had too much firepower. I mean, offensively, defensively, you name it, and sure enough, they did. I mean, they ended up running away with that game eventually. Tough loss for Utah, but, I mean, I think everybody'd agree they'd kind of exceeded the expectations given their injuries at this point already. And so to think that they were going to – I mean, if they'd gone and beaten Oregon, after all that, just give Kyle Whittingham the Decade Coach of the Year award or whatever. But, no, was not in the cards because Oregon is just really, really good. And, like you said, they're out for blood, and they're right there in that playoff conversation with a bunch of big games still left to play.
Yeah, I wonder if Utah is – they're not going to tap out. They're not going to do that. But you just wonder if they're just worn out right now.
Well, and look, eventually not having your quarterback is going to get to you. They've been walking that line for a while, and you're running against Oregon, who's really good. And I think it was, it's probably worse news for the rest of the Pac-12 that Oregon lost that game, and Dan Lanning now has a chip on his shoulder about it, that had they won the game, and he might have had to keep the rat poison out of their mouths.
Yeah,
so
and I want to make sure, I'm not saying that's why Oregon won, because they pummeled them. But you just, I tell you what.
Well, you run up against a team like that, you're going to need Cam Rising against Oregon.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You don't need, like, no offense to Bryson Barnes, you don't need that guy.
I mean, he threw 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. They had 99 yards rushing. Yeah. He had, like, under 50% completion percent. I mean, yeah, that's not going to work, and that was something they were inevitably going to run into. It's just that Oregon's good enough to actually force that and not only do that defensively, but then also be good enough on offense to overcome Utah's biggest strength, which is their defense. And yeah, we saw the difference in those two here at the moment. But Utah's still a good team, but Oregon's got potential to be a great team.
If Oregon takes care of business against Cal, which they should, but they gave US how many points could they score against USC's defense in 2 weeks?
Name it. I mean, pick a number over 50. I think they could.
Alex Grinch isn't a problem, though, guys.
No, he's fine.
Totally fine.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations to Cal. Hope your protest worked out well for a professor who got fired for stalking someone.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
Yeah.
What a stupid, like, I thought it was going to be like a real world issue where you're like, okay, kids, I get it, but no, it's for a professor who got fired. That's what it was. Way to go, guys.
Yeah. Enjoy that ACC.
Yeah. Number 1. Iowa's nightmare has an expiration date. It will be after their bowl game. And I'm just going to say it. I don't think that's the only Ferentz that needs to go. Kirk Ferentz has certainly earned his own retirement or exit by being an excellent coach there for a long time. But, I mean, he was addressed with this problem about the offense and refused to solve it, and then they had to solve it for him. That's never a good sign when it comes to coaching university. When the university has we can all identify, everyone can agree the offense isn't scoring enough points, except for the head coach who did not want to solve the problem and then kind of painted himself into a corner with this. And I get you're supporting your son, but can you make him the tight ends coach or something and let somebody else call the plays until he's ready to do that again? I mean,
I thought what the AD said and the way she said it was like,
yeah, she shouldn't have to be making these decisions.
Like almost not to hurt anybody's feelings, but it was blistering. It made it. We got to do this, and we got to do what's best for our program, and it's best that we make the decision at this particular time.
Yeah, they've got to start recruiting offensive players too.
I won't pretend to know the pulse of Iowa Hawkeye football or what the feeling is around the program at the moment, but I don't know. I know where you're coming from, Paul, but that dude's built up so much goodwill, and I understand he's erased some of it with the whole handling of Brian Ferentz, but, I mean, what are you going to go realistically do if you're Iowa? You know what I mean? You're going to go hire Luke Fickell like Wisconsin did, or what are your plans? Because you have an identity. I can't say that for the team over here. I can't say that for some other teams I watched on Saturday. Now, yes, the offense has to be better, but he's going to get a crack at trying to do that before any kind of time starts ticking on him. He seems to have pretty free reign, but he definitely threw some of that to the wayside in defense of his son, and I'm sure that will need to be cleared up or what have you. But I mean, that dude has kept them at a pretty high level for a long time, and I don't know that there's a lot of guys out there that could continue to do that.
All right, one quick note of the ACC schedule. We will dig into it more tomorrow. SMU's crossover games are going to be the common. Will be Stanford and Cal, so that's pretty good for them because of the time zone. Now, here is the picture, once again, of the glass being broken in the visiting radio booth, and that has at least been put up for now. Paul, you made a very mean comment on text.
Well, I mean, look, leave it up.
Don't say it.
I'll say it.
No, don't.
Leave it up. Baylor needs all the help they can get.
Yeah.
God, have all the coaches. Look, Soki, you and I have had to do high school games literally shoulder to shoulder.
Yep.
In booths. Mm-hmm. We made it work.
Very similar to that.
Listen, Houston can make it work.
Yeah. All right, great stuff. Emery Winter, thank you putting together the 365 Sports tonight, every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW. Jack McKenzie and Levi Caraway. Garrett, thank you for putting up with all the requests I sent you throughout the last 48 hours. Craig Smoak, have a great night. Paul Catalina, have a great night. Paxton, I don't know why you asked if I was mad at you. We appreciate everybody in the chat room. Retired stockbroker, we're sorry that we didn't get your super chat about hiring Phil Bennett at Houston. I'll text him on that and get back with you. I'm David Smoak for all of you and our sponsors. Good night. Go Rangers 365 Sports.